What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's DH Thorne coming at you live with the ever illustrious, ever blue, ever purple, ever beautiful and effervescent Flesh Priest. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. Let me turn this down a little bit so we can hear. Fleshy, say hi to everybody at home.
Hello, everyone. I fucking love that song. I always feel like a methed out dad at a barbecue dancing to it as the show begins.
I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that. I feel like the methed out dad for all the time. You know? Fuck it.
I'm sure
I'm drinking matcha tea.
Oh, you got matcha? Well, I tell you what, you need to level up your game, my bro. You gotta get that on that yerba mate.
I wouldn't know anything about that, but I do put a fucking unhealthy amount of freaking Blue Lotus in everything, so.
Oh, so we're both just flying tonight then.
Well, they legalized a lot of stuff in New York, so I'll be flying soon. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you still need to get out my way for the whole fucking, what's the name of it?
Ayahuasca.
Thank you, yes. You gotta get on La Purga with me.
Well, you know, I thought we said we might do Florida, but, you know.
Yeah, you keep saying Florida, but I'm gonna keep saying come to the West Coast.
True. Well, I don't really care either way. It's what will my wife endure with a plane? That's really the hardest thing is, can I get her on a plane without, like, donkey kicking everybody on it? Like, they're gonna have to sedate her, like, half of it.
You'll have to sedate her on the way here, but on the way back, after she experiences all of that, she will be the plane. Like,
yeah,
it
right?
won't even matter.
Yeah, she'll just be like, whoa, I don't even need to worry about death anymore. This is cool. So, let's read the comments. Who do we got here so far tonight? What's up? Who's here? Let's give time for everybody to filter in, but let's give a greeting to everybody.
Yeah, we have Atropa Darling CM Helnikainen. I have been mispronouncing that this whole time.
He said he might be on in a week or so. He might come on soon.
Oh, spoilers.
Oh, is that a spoiler? Is that keeping the rear of my car down? Is that what it's doing?
You get to announce the shit. We also have Go Away Volume Bar. Come on, show me the next guy. Cito, Eddie Romanov, the Great and Powerful. Empirical Guessologist. Such a good fucking name. The Great and Powerful Eric Coetting.
Ooh, the Coetting of the Great and Powerful. Yeah, nice.
Jeff524. We have 7LVX7777.
Hey, that's almost like Travis Magus. I don't think it is, but that'd be cool if it was. I love that, yes. Keyword, my friend, keyword. What is up? We're gonna call him keyword tonight. I'm just calling him keyword.
Yeah, it sounds like a password somebody would have.
No, it is. It's actually Lux. It means light. It's basically it's like the romanization of light, and it actually is a really cool Golden Dawn style thing. It's pretty cool stuff. Basically means that you're aware that you are reborn as divinity, basically, is what it really translates into. I know it's actually more and less than that. More and less than that. It's actually part of a ritual, but what is up?
I'm just going to call him 7, or her, or them.
You call him 7. Yeah, 7's good. 7's good.
We also have Jerome279, Kat Jones, Kelly Meadows, Marison Eisenberg, Matthew King, Serpent of Sophia, Star Ruby Corsi, Timothy Foster, and Vince Cashmere. Welcome,
Vince Cashmere, what's up, brother? And we got Ace the Goblin.
Yeah,
fuck yeah. What's up, Ace, brother? I haven't seen you in a little bit, man. I miss you, man. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
So, are you ready to have all of these wonderful, beautiful bastards, bitches, non-binary bitches just roll their eyes and walk out the door as we let our nerd flags fly?
We're going to unfurl the nerdiest of flags, and I'm going to try to act like I don't know what you're talking about, even though I'm always the DM. And but we're going to really get into roleplay tonight because, and I know you meant like pencil and paper concepts, but I want to take this to another. I want to take this beyond like, ooh, what does Dungeons and Dragons have to do with magic? I'm not talking about that. I mean, we can make it about that a little bit, but I want to really get into the whole what use is roleplay, because here's the thing. The ancients knew that there were 3 fundamental human experiences that were absolutely intrinsic to spirituality, magic, reality in general. And they were ignorance, will, and imagination. Those 3 experiences, those three things, are quite literally the most powerful, most important, and most restrictive parts of our experience. They're what makes us human, more than almost any other, facet or feature that humanity has. It's the combination. It's what makes you powerful, even. It's what makes society work. It's a very powerful concept. And
you would say ignorance makes a person powerful? That isn't normally what I would associate.
That's a bit of a twist. Like, I've got to twist it around a little bit for you to understand why. But the point is that if you are an all-powerful divinity, okay, you have all power. So how do you make a rock that God cannot move? Let's say for argument's sake, which I believe, but let's say you're not fully on board. Let's just agree with me for a moment that we are all God incarnate.
Absolutely.
The God, the every God, all of it. Every one of us is that God, right?
And so this is in that omnipotent sense.
Right. So you are God, which means you are omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Now, if you have any one of those, it implies you have all three at the same time. There is absolutely no distinction in my mind between them. We just say them because that's how we see the world.
Yeah, it's like becoming a vocational programmer and a furry. One thing goes with the other.
So if you're omniscient, that means you know everything. Well, the only way you could know everything is if you were everywhere to experience everything. And you also would mean you must have power over everything, because then you know where everything goes, how it ends up. You have control over what happens, therefore you know everything. And even if you didn't, that knowledge is power, right? That's an axiom we all agree upon. So if you're omniscient, you're all-powerful. And if you're all-powerful, you must also be omniscient and all-present. And if you're all-present, you must be all-powerful and omniscient. They absolutely cannot be separated. How does such a God create a rock that it cannot move? Now, you sat through this lecture, so you might have the answer.
Oh, you caught me. I could have acted real smart, but anybody who's in the classes want to speak up real quick? This is your pop quiz. But yeah, through ignorance, through just telling yourself, oh, I can't actually move that rock. I'm going to forget that I can move that rock.
Right. So how does an all-powerful God create a rock that it cannot move? It forgets that it's God for a little while. And therefore, in that time, that rock is unmovable. It will, of course, again become movable. So so this is actually, you're going to say, someone would say, well, that means you're not that powerful because you forgot. No. You're so powerful that ignorance is your superpower. That's why you're here. It's literally like you're so powerful, what's left except not powerful?
Yeah.
So if you're really all powerful, you have to be able to be powerless. That's the only thing that would be deficient, and you can have that too without it being a paradox. You absolutely can. That's why that's why I love doing what I do, because I like finding these unanswerable koans and questions and inverting them the way that I think they were really meant to be inverted. And everybody struggles with them for millennia. What could God make a rock that he could not move? Because if he can't, he's not all powerful. And if he can, he's not all powerful. But yes, he can, because that's how he does it. So that means you are this God. You've created a rock that you can't move. It's not even that big. It's not even that big. Go outside and find a boulder somewhere. It's not even that big. You can't move that sucker. Something the size of your beer belly, you can't move that too easily. You're God, though. You put that rock there. So you can't move it. How come? Yeah. So, that is absolutely an important feature. Without ignorance, you could not have revelation. Think about, we've said this before, without if you knew the end of every movie, there'd be a lot less point to watching movies for most people. Obviously, you're some kind of a weird freak of nature exception, but most people would agree it sucks to have movies spoiled for them. And in the same way, this is what it is. Empirical guessologist says limited ego, limitless soul. Exactly. And it's not even that ego is limited. Ego can do nothing. It's not even fair to call it limited. It'd be like calling the shadow on your wall limited, right? It's not limited. The meaning of limit, it's like it has absolutely no choice in anything at all whatsoever, in fact. It's not even limited. It's zero. It's zero capability. It is a shadow on the wall, and you're doing the finger puppeting. So, ego is actually an aperture. It's a limited. When we say limited, and I'm not even correcting you, empirical guessologists. I just really want to emphasize that.
It's a jumping point.
When we say, yeah, it's a jumping point. That's all it is. So I'm not correcting you. I think you already know what I'm saying. I get the feeling. So, the hermit says omni-impotence. Yes, omni-impotence. Absolutely. Very good. I like this much. I'm focused and I got energy, but I'm not. So that's good. That's good. We're just gonna goose frama. So yeah.
Who knows? We might watch this back later and just like, oh God, were we high?
We were high. Yeah, it's gonna be like that episode of Family Guy where they think that they're singing so beautiful, but they're like,
Oh, alcohol, the great pitch corrector in your head for a few hours.
In your head. Yeah, beer goggles, the whole works. So we only got 38 people watching the stream. Correct that now, my minions. Go out and spread the flame of evil throughout the land of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. I'd really appreciate it tonight because we're going to have a good conversation tonight. We're going to be taking your questions. We might even take some live callers. I think I'm in the mood to talk to some people I haven't talked to before, or maybe people I have talked to who just want to hop on. So I'd love to hear from some people tonight that we haven't heard from. Even if you're a freaking hater and you want to like cuss us out, we can just cut you off and laugh at you. That'd be cool too. But yeah, feel free to join us tonight. Fleshy will probably tell us about that in a little bit. So yeah, when we do that,
I'll give it anybody who wants to call probably in about half an hour. I will announce how you can go about doing that. But if you have Discord or Skype, you can call into this show and tell us what's on your mind, whether it's hate or love or just curiosity.
Yeah. We will take, treat this like, what would the Art Bell show or something. I want to hear your crazy stories. If you like role-playing and you have a story that's related to role-playing and magic, for real, bring that up. We'll have a conversation about it. And we're going to set a timer tonight because usually one of the problems we have is we'll bring somebody on and it's like an hour call. So let's do a timer where everybody's got like 10, 15 minutes or maybe less. Like, should we do it where like people get to make a comment or a question for a few minutes and then we answer that and move on, or should we give them like 15 minutes ahead when they call in? What do you think?
Let's do 10 minutes and then go from there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So 10 minutes unless it's really good.
We'll sway it. Yeah.
We'll sway it. We'll do a weighted average.
We can move those obstacles from our path.
I think we can. So we'll actually probably take that on the earlier side tonight. We'll see if we can do that and get
okay.
We'll get some calls. So yeah. And if there's nobody, that's fine too. Like we only get 40, 50, 60 people at a stream, so you're lucky you get one or two people want to call in. But they do. Mm-hmm. They absolutely do. And Eddie says if we don't get 50 viewers, he will call in and sing a sea shanty. Eddie, I love you, but no.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll play Sea of Thieves and do all the shanties.
But yeah, we'll do see. Oh, we didn't play that during Pride Month at all, and I feel like we missed our. We can still do the joke. It's just not as funny now.
Yeah, but so as a behind the scenes for this stream, you were actually telling me like, I don't really have anything that I'm really set on talking about this week. I'm like, well, I had an idea. Just like we talk about roleplay with Magick all the time, and I was thinking, what could we, what would I suggest to people to say, like, incorporate this into your roleplay, like specifically with the mind of role-playing games to most immediately affect your magic as a beginner.
Sure.
And
role-playing games
with it, just posted the video
because
right there.
I've been meaning to do a it kind of sucks because in a way I meant to do a regular video about this and I never did. And I really have to get around to redoing my videos because at some point, even though like I am a wealth of information because I'm a nerd, there at some point I feel like I don't feel like talking about this. I need something else. Maybe I'll go over some old ground that I talked about once and see how my ideas have updated and so on, which is important. But this is one topic that I never really covered. And as I said, ignorance is important. And everybody understands, well, most people misunderstand will. We should do a stream just about will sometime. But imagination, whatever you think that is, we've all got our theories on what that is. Most people just think it's your mind making stuff up, right? Just creativity. It's the force of creativity. I actually see imagination as something else, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But imagination is very important as well. It gives you, it's like the lighthouse that shows you where you can go, right? It's like the searchlight that can kind of give you ideas on what to do. And it's one of the most important things in magic. So when we say visualize, what we really mean is imagine. So when I say, when you do a ritual, visualize your astral temple or visualize the energy coming out of your hand, what I'm telling you to do is imagine it. Because imagination and astral are that. They're basically the same thing. There's not really any difference, except that astral can have kind of a more objective element to it, where what you're imagining is something that is, it's not just in your head. And it's never just in your head. You always have to get the word just. When it comes to magic, take the word just out of your vocabulary almost completely and don't use it.
Just
when you're referring to your, don't use the word just in relationship to imagination. Never say it was just my imagination. Never, ever, ever. If you're in a ritual, and I've had people say this to me in training all the time when they're coming to me for classes, which I'm going to plug for a moment that I do every Monday, if you guys want to join that.
Also, when you're at a stopping point, we have a super chat with a question.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, cool. So when you're in a ritual, I get this all the time. Someone will be like, oh, I did the ritual and I called out to the spirit and I thought I heard a voice in my head, but I wasn't sure if I was imagining it. And they're like, I thought I might be imagining it, so I just kind of gave up because that doesn't seem right. And, you know, I get that like frustrated teacher feeling because it's like, no.
That's a big stumbling block early on.
It's a very big stumbling block because imagination is absolutely the threshold for real communication with the spirit. When you do a ritual, now not just communication with the spirit, but I mean the whole jimaram, the whole thing. That's a new word, write it down, jimaram. As I often say, the pyramids were once just someone's imagination. You were once just someone's imagination. Imagination is the beginning. Imagination is the inception of all action, of all things. It comes before. It is the magician card. It is all possibilities. And if you're not using your imagination effectively in magic, you might as well not do it at all. It is literally, this is why the skeptics have a field day with people. Because they're right when they say, oh, that was just in your head. Take the word just out. You know, let's say it was just your imagination. Take the word just out. Like, you're right. It was my imagination. And isn't that interesting that my imagination was that accurate? Was that effective? Was that powerful? Isn't it interesting that I imagine things that get confirmed by other people later who say they have the same or very similar experiences? There's things that I've seen about spirits that I have no way of knowing other people are going to agree with. And they'll be like, I saw something just like that. Wow. So what is that? What is that? There's a whole lot of layers here, guys, and we're gonna peel this onion for about 5 hours and be as pedantic as we could possibly be on the subject. So I hope you're excited about it, as I am. So, Fleshy, read that first super chat, if you will.
So, from the great and powerful Eric Coetting with that 666, I gotta announce it every time I see it. It's the law. Hail! One obvious application of roleplay is assumption of god forms. Would you say this is just magically charged roleplay?
It absolutely starts out that way. All of us are role players all the time. Every moment of your day is a kind of role play.
We all have masks and we all see roles that we choose to fit in.
Right. We walk around in our daily life and there's flesh priest And then there's the guy at his day job, and then there's D.H. Thorne the father, who doesn't call himself D.H. Thorne. There's his mama's son. There's all these different people, and we all play them all the time. And you'll know you're playing one. If you've never had this experience, you're probably not a human being. How many of you have ever had the experience where you're with one group of friends that know you one way, and then you're with someone else who knows you another way, and it's awkward as hell?
You're trying,
like, you know,
you're with to find a middle ground where you can play both angles at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be with my in-laws, and then, like, they'll see my pentagram stuff everywhere, and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what? I was about to say, oh, it's a good thing I don't do that anymore, and then I remembered there are people who I wouldn't tell I'm on this show, at least not at first, because they ain't cool like that.
And part of the occult in general isn't just role-playing. There's an element of secrecy to it. That's why we call it the occult. I think some people fetishize the secrecy maybe a little more than they should. But you absolutely are supposed to keep certain things to yourself. You're not supposed to, like, here's every shadow I have, unless that's part of some pact you're doing. You know, exposing these things for your own benefit, because sometimes the reason you're hiding it isn't because it's supposed to be occulted. It's because you're a coward about something. You're afraid of something. You have a shadow, and you're in denial about something. I would rather be honest to a fault so that people can't say later, you never told me that, right? That's why when I first came out on the scene, I'm like, yes, this is my career now. I'm going to be charging people money for things. Get over it. You know, I didn't want the surprise in a week later. You know, what do you mean you're selling books? Well, yeah, of course I am. But there are things that are meant to be kept to yourself. There's things I get from spirits that don't get told to me. So I occult those things. I mean, they get told to me, but I'm not supposed to tell it to everybody. And those things get occulted.
Yeah.
You know, I don't tell you every detail of my life. Of course not. But to get back to EA's question, yes, it's absolutely starts off as magically charged roleplay. And my point before about talking about your different masks that you wear in regular life already, you are already primed, utterly primed, to shift masks anytime. It's built into the human experience to have masks that you shift into. People who are more accustomed to it can shift more drastically. Actors can shift way more drastically than the average person.
Marion Eisenberg actually points out something I think is good for this. Customer service mode at work is totally role-playing.
True. Yes. Good point. And I'm an excellent role player, but I don't like bullshitting people. You know, this is why, like, people are like, oh, you're a bullshit artist because you do magic. I'm like, dude, if you know me, you know that I have a funk about lying to people and being insincere. I don't like doing it. I am much happier to tell people I'm coming after them. And be like, oh no, you're my best friend. I would never hurt you. No, I'm more likely to be like, I'm going to eat your soul. Wait for me. You know, I don't do the insincere thing as well as other people. I just don't. And maybe that's just me hiding by saying that, but I don't think I do. I really don't.
I don't think so.
You know, but that's the funny thing. You see me in like a customer service job, you'd think that's D.H. Thorne. I'm like, thank you for calling, blah, 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 blah. How can I help you? Like, I'm putting on a completely different act. But in my heart, I'm like, if this person pisses me off, I'm going to fuck all their paperwork up. I'm going to ruin their life. I'm really me behind it.
Yeah, so, and that's like a level of... I was planning on talking more about this later as we went on, but that to me is kind of a level of mask where you're still very cognizant behind it and everything is going through that filter. Whereas I feel like with really good roleplay, it gets to a point where you stop... It's not that it stops becoming roleplay, but you're not thinking about the roleplay. You're just acting, just like with EA's question with the God forms.
Yes,
it's not
exactly
not roleplay, but it's not roleplay.
So, one of my secrets to being a good medium is to get over the idea that you're making it up and lean into making it up. Like, literally lean into it. I don't mean do that for paying clients at first. I'm not saying, like, oh, if you think you're a medium and you can commune with spirits and all this good stuff and have them channel through you or anything like that, for sure, don't do this on the first try and get paid for it or something. Make sure you're good at it first. Mm-hmm. Okay, make sure that you really can put your money where your mouth is. For me, there's only a handful of spirits that I'll do that with for someone else. Usually I do it for myself alone because I have to do a lot of validation work on the things that I learn before I will tell people about it. When I hear something a spirit tells me, unless it really rings true and I can verify it some way really easily, I keep that to myself and I work with it as if it's true. So what am I saying by leaning into it? The secret to being a good medium, in my opinion, is a combination of things. Yes, it's not like you're just LARPing. Don't think that you're just LARPing. You absolutely have to learn transcendental techniques to step out of your own ego awareness a little bit. You've got to. You can't just pretend, right? And Ajna says, make sure you fake it till you truly make it. Basically is what I'm saying to you. I'm not saying it to you, like people will hear that and they will twist that around. They will twist it. So you're admitting that you're just a LARPer. No, I'm saying LARPing, role-playing, making it up
there's that
is the first step. Right. That's your first, that's the doorway. You know, little children role play all the time and we don't give them shit for it because they learn how to be different people by doing that. They learn relationships, they learn what cops and robbers are really like. You know, that's how they do it. It's an absolutely important part of it. And if you don't recognize the power of role play and the imagination, that means you also don't recognize the power of the collective conscious. Because your role play is absolutely tethered indistinguishably to the collective consciousness because the characters you play are based on tropes and memes and things that are in that collective conscious that are immortal. They are more real than you are in many ways. They will outlive you by generations. They are much more powerful than you give them credit for. You know, the trope of the samurai with the jingasa and the straw sticking out of his mouth, looking all disheveled, the Ronin. Everybody knows that trope. In fact, people don't like a samurai unless he's like that now, do they? Right?
Nope.
If you see like a regular, like dyed-in-the-wool hardcore samurai who's just acting like a samurai supposed to and taking his orders, and people are like, yeah, that's really cool. But people they really think Ronin when they really want to think of like a cool. Yeah, that's what people think of.
Nobody wants the guy getting squeaky clean in the bath right before a bloodbath. They want the guy all dirty on the road with the straw.
Right. They want that guy that looks like he's seen some shit. So that's a little foreshadowing for next week, by the way. We're contemplating doing a samurai themed episode next week, just so you guys know. So these little things of roleplay are the first step. Now I know, and one of the reasons why I'm glad EA is here tonight is because in some of his books and in his own videos, he's brought this up many times. It's actually one of the ways that I go, this guy's legit. He knows the secret. He knows the secret. Where most people sit there and they will do a ritual with their candles and their incense, and they'll do this beautiful, elaborate ritual, and then they'll just sit there like an idiot, waiting for something to happen, not using their imagination, literally just, okay, anytime, King Paimon, where are you, buddy? And nothing happens. Nothing at all happens. And then they'll get advice from well-meaning people who don't know better saying, oh, you just need to turn up your sensitivity. That's all it is. You need to open your third eye. Here, listen to this for 40 hours straight until your third eye opens.
Candles. No.
Oh, that's what you did. Yeah, and it becomes a mechanistic thing. It becomes very mechanical material.
You gotta meet them halfway.
Yeah. So you open the door with this imaginative role play. I don't care what your theory is on how this works. You might be one of these people who believes that the way that this works and why it works is because you're resonating with their pattern, and because you're coming into resonance with them, they can channel through you now. I like that one up to a point. Of course, in my non-dual nature, I have certain understandings of things that kind of cause havoc with some of that because I recognize the illusory nature of a lot of this. But let's put that on the distant burner for now, because I'm not even sure we're going to go hardcore non-dual tonight. We're probably going to stick more down to earth crap that people don't like to talk about.
Quick side tangent. We have a super chat from Wild Child Tarot. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Wild Child. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So you were saying we'll stay more down to earth.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we got to hit the non-dual potion at some point.
Oh yeah, it's the law.
We'll aim for more down here for a little while. Mm-hmm. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that your imagination and your role play is a way to match frequencies. You're tuning in the dial to the spirit, if you will. And it's perfectly acceptable. In fact, it's required, in my opinion, for the average person to do it that way. Now, some people will say, well, that's not really magic, that's drama. At which point I say, go open a history book and look at what magic ritual always has been. Magic ritual has always been a form of drama. Even your jar spell. Yes, even your poppet spell. Yes, even your knot spell. They're a form of performance art. That's what they are, and that's what they're designed to be. That's why there's so much psychiatric jim jam flim flam symbolism going on in all of these things. This is why it really doesn't matter, so long as the symbolism is there in your understanding. Things will happen like that. They'll work for you. If you look at the history of magic and the history of drama, as far as we can see it, clearly, because certain things are hidden, right? You have the mystery schools that don't tell you everything, back in antiquity, but then the ones like the Eleusinian mysteries and stuff like that, we have a pretty good idea of what went on. Not everything, but we have a better idea. Look it up, guys. That's the origin of stage drama as we know it today. You wouldn't have movies if it wasn't for magic rituals. Mm. That's literally what they were. They were staged dramas. Your incantations where you read the spiritual poetry, you're reading spiritual Shakespeare, brother and sister, friend, people, everybody, non-binary motherfuckers. That's what you're doing. You're reading Shakespeare to Satan. That's what you're doing. The words have no power by themselves. Yes, you can say, oh, the resonance and all this stuff. Okay, fine. If that's your head movie, that's fine. I agree with it on a large scale. I like to resonate things. I like saying, oh, it definitely works. It does something.
Yeah, but it's not. It's for you. Like the fact that you took a step left and then to the right and did the hokey pokey and shook it all around in the circle doesn't matter by itself. It's that it mattered to you.
Mm-hmm. And Ajna invoked evoked Jodorowsky just now, and I want to, I love you. I would love to just spend a weekend with Jodorowsky and just compare notes and just have a great time. He's a swell guy, brilliant guy. I don't care. I don't know what they'll find skeleton-wise in his closet, but I want to hang out with him for like a day. Do you know what I just got on my? Because I just got a Kindle Fire for the first time ever, like a good one. And I actually read the first book of the Inkal, and I really want to read the Meta Barons too. I got to buy all those books. So at some point I'm going to put them like, how do you do that? Like on OnlyFans, you can have people buy you stuff from Amazon. I'm going to do that. I'm going to have people buy me crap. Instead of buying me stuff, like instead of giving me super chats, you can buy me stuff.
Oh, that's a dream right there.
Right? Like I might have to show a little nip from now and then, but I don't think April will mind. I don't think anybody will mind. So, oops, oh, there it is.
Oh no!
Buy my shit. Oh man, but for real though, So, as I was saying, Jodorowsky's not wrong when people say it's just psycho magic. Here's the problem, guys. Research the origin of the word psyche. Look it up. Google it if you want. Look at the origin of it. It used to mean soul or spirit. So your psyche is absolutely a major component of what your soul, depending upon your definition of these words, of course, everybody's got little differences in definition. Soul, which I equate to Atman, and Atman is Brahman if you're an Advaitin like I am. I'm not really an Advaitin. I'm not like, I don't belong to, it's just Advaita Vedanta is one of my favorite non-dual teachings. But the Atman, the soul, is the same thing as the ultimate. It's just it's a limitation. The soul is a box, it's a boundary, it's an idea, it's an encapsulation. And you put yourself into that little boundary for a little while as a role play. You're God role playing a human. And you forgot you're God. For lack of a better, that is the most blunt way I can put it to all of you listening to me right now. My next book is basically going to be all about how you're God. and what that means and how that affects your magic. I don't know if it's going to be my next book, but I'm cranking away on it. I'm doing a good job on it. I'm pretty proud of it. So you're God pretending you're a human being, and you've forgotten that you're pretending. It's really that simple. And being told that you're God doesn't wake you up, because the ego owns that. The ego says, aha, I'm God. No, the ego is not God. Ego is, if you want to say part of God, I don't like the word part because part implies separation on some level. But if you want to say ego is a manifestation of God, the ego is a facet of God, is an aspect of God. All of those words work for me. It's a direction inside, it's a perspective God has of itself, is your ego. Absolutely acceptable. Ego is nothing wrong with it, guys. Someone recently confronted me like, oh, why do you always talk down about it? I don't talk down about the ego. What I do is I dissolve it. Your ego is a beautiful and important tool. Don't ever get rid of it. But it is just a mask. And you can make that mask anything you want. That's what you're here to do. You're here to enjoy that mask for as long as you want. You're supposed to be D.H. Thorne or E.A. Quetting. And maybe the mask, the point of it is to wake up. Maybe that's why you have it. It's so that you can take it off. That's part of the show. But anyway, so the origin of all magic is religious drama, religious, spiritual drama, regardless of the century, regardless of the culture, okay? A lot of people have a very simplistic understanding of magic in that they think it's like these little charms and things, and it is all that. There's no question that that's part of it, but all magic is born out of spiritual, metaphysical understanding. Magic it's people go, well, witchcraft is this and magic is that, and it's not these high ceremonial rituals. That's something else, but it's all the same thing. It's just that one is a little simpler and direct and maybe mundane oriented. Like, I consider low magic versus high magic very simple. Low magic is magic aimed at the mundane material level, and it doesn't require big ceremonial magic to do. You can do big ceremonial magic for mundane material things, but you're doing those basic candle spells and stuff. That's low magic, because you're not really invoking necessarily heavy-hitting aspects of your divinity. You're just invoking divinity, and you're cementing an intention and hoping to go make that experience manifest. High magic is theurgy. Now, they're both theurgy. In my opinion, it's all theurgy. All magic is a form of theurgy. That's all it is. Theurgy is the ascension process of kenosis, becoming one with the divine. You know, the Baphomet is you, all of that good stuff. You realize that you are the as above and the so below, and it all happens through the filter of this. Okay, but this is where it's all happening, is right here. So, it's all theurgy, even the little low magic spells. That's all a form of theurgy, because all of those are ways for you to exert or recognize your divinity by acting in magic. So, but roleplay, the theatrics, are absolutely important. If you don't believe that, if you really believe that magic is about the materials, that's fine. That's your belief. That's your roleplay. You know, it's kind of like if you say that, I just go, well, that's just your role play. That's your role play. Is you think it's if you think that it absolutely is imperative that you get the third knuckle bone of a dead priest to use in a spell, otherwise it won't work. Well, that's your head movie. That's what you need. Some people don't need anything like that, and they can move entire mountains around basically with magic. They really can. Of course, this is again living in this level of acceptance that we actually do anything. When you realize what the real show is, it's really a movie on a tape, and you don't have any control over it. You think you do, but you don't. You
just flash around between the frames.
Yeah. It's just your awareness moving between the frames. That's all it is.
So
Jay Sauber.
Yeah, we have a super chat here from Jay Sauber. Appreciate you, dude.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Also, now is the time when I said I'd do it. So anybody who wants to call in, go ahead and message me on Skype or Discord, and we will see about getting you on for your questions or stories or anything else, really.
Yeah. I love that. Dan Best says it's all the same. I'm not sure what that middle word is. The dream that we all have about being human, we forget, but we can remember that we are more than this. And the thing is that it's not even about Like, who is it that remembers, you know? And I mean, this is where the Zen people get you, and they get you really good because they really ask that question. Who is it that remembers? Like, let's be honest, right? And when you play that game with yourself, this kind of like wisdom one-upsmanship stuff, it's pretty interesting what happens. You know, at some point you hit a point where you go, yeah, who is holding me back? Because a lot of people have this feeling like enlightenment is something that's like external that they have to reach for. And they think that they're imprisoned in this mortal dream, but they're not.
No.
It's a choice you've made. Well, anyway, back to the roleplay. I mean, we're getting too non-dual here. Let's get back to the roleplay. So, no, Eddie. Eddie's like, I see that that mage, the ascension is already having. I love it already, though. I got to tell you, I love it, and it's definitely a very potent thing. It's definitely got a lot of good points. It's nothing. I'm not learning anything from it, but you know what I like about RPGs and stuff is that they stir my imagination. They really do. They get my imagination juices going. Because I start thinking, that's an interesting world. I'd like to explore that world. And as I do, I start thinking about things I never thought of before. You know, I start thinking about ways to answer questions and questions I never thought of before. So maybe that was your intended effect, Eddie. I don't know. But honestly, though, I've only read about 10 pages of it, like by skimming all over the place. The book that's actually been hitting me the hardest lately is the Illustrated Secret History of the World by, what's his name? Brooks? Mark Booth. Yeah, this bad boy right here. Like, I'm savoring this. I'm reading a few pages at a time. It's a juicy ass book. I really recommend this for everybody. It's all about what the secret societies of the world actually believe, and I'm reading it going, oh, so everything I figured out on my own just about is stuff that they believe on some level, and now here's some stuff I never thought of before. Whoa, that's what those symbols really meant? Whoa, and it's like, and you know, so mind blown.
You know how I knew you would love Mage the Ascension? Is because when Eddie was describing it to me, he said, it's basically just the Maelstrom, the RPG.
It really isn't far off. It's really not far off. I will say that I've definitely realized some things that kind of... I mean, it really is. It really is become the Maelstrom, the RPG now that I'm reading it. I could see why he would say that. It's absolutely... You could probably take that. I think Eddie said he does do this. You could take that book and, using its principles, work real magic. It's absolutely one of the best for that. I would agree. Just the little bit that I've read. I mean, take out all the politics and stuff in it, you know, like between the whatever, the different factions and everything. Go with the principles in it. And you're close enough. Like I said before, you're resonating with the truth enough that the truth's going to pour in, right? So roleplay is that. So roleplay, when done intentionally, is this act of getting into a character. And if you, what's that movie? Tropic Thunder. How many people have seen Tropic Thunder? Have you all seen Tropic Thunder? Okay.
I'm a dude
inside
of a dude playing another dude.
Yes! That's what channeling a spirit is like. Mm. It's like, it is exactly like having a little bit of, the right word for it is like they do in the movie Split and Broken and Mr. Glass, or Unbreakable, excuse me, and Mr. Glass, is the alters. It's the alternate personalities of, what's the more polite term for it instead of multiple personality disorder? I forget what they call it.
Dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, exactly. So in Tropic Thunder, you've got Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who is playing this Australian guy with bright blue eyes, but he's like in blackface pretending to be a black guy, and he totally forgets that he's a white guy for the whole movie until near the end. It's fucking hilarious. One of the best, like, oh my god, it was great. Really funny shit. And he understands, like, he goes through like all these layers of psychosis of characters that he still thinks he is, that he's just layered on top, and he doesn't know who he really is anymore. And I think that's so brilliant, because that's what like a spiritual awakening feels like a little bit. Like, wait a minute, who the fuck am I when these masks come off? Who am I when I'm not D.H. Thorne? Ask yourself this question, each and every one of you sitting here right now. Remove the mask of who you think you are. Erase your identity just for a moment. Think about who you are, absent all the experiences of your life. Who the fuck are you?
I think that's a really scary question for a lot of people. Just like
It is.
as presented in the movie, obviously it's a comedy, then didn't really focus on it, but that was traumatic for him, at least at 1st.
It really was. And you know, well, so what's happening is let's rewind just a little bit and reformat, and let's bring the needle back to where I want it to be. So role playing is a way to, in the simplest terms, and I'm not even saying this is mechanically accurate, but in the simplest terms, so that most people will understand. There is a higher understanding to it, but the understanding that starts you on the path is recognize that when you're role playing, you are resonating with something else other than the mask you're usually doing. And when you resonate with that enough, and you do it, and you really get into character, at some point you don't have to plan your moves, you don't have to think about it, you just act like that character. It's just who you become for a while. And when it's done really well, when you really let go of your own identity far enough, you're basically possessed by whatever that is. That is a polite possession, right? That's not a "I have your soul." That's usually bullshit when you see that anyway. That's usually something else.
Are they possessing you, or are you possessing them, though?
Well, possession's a bullshit word. I don't like it. I use it so people know what I'm saying, but possession's a bullshit word. Nothing is possessed. Possession is nonsense. Possession implies that your body can be marionetted and puppeted around, and that's not what's happening at all. You think it is, but that's not what's happening. You're not a soul with a meat suit, okay? The meat suit is entirely in your imagination. There is no possession in imagination. There's just imagination. Imagine it. Where does this imagination take? Where does your experience of body take place, Flesh?
In the mind? Is that what
And
you're
where does the experience and where does the experience of the mind take place?
The everything.
In the awareness. The everything isn't the well, yeah, it is, but it's in the awareness. So awareness contains your body. Your body doesn't contain awareness. So how could someone possess that other than your awareness? That's silly. So what we're really talking about is your awareness is not the sum of memories. It's not the sum of experiences. It's none of that. That's things your awareness experiences. But that doesn't define your awareness. I don't want to get too far into that. We've had this conversation many times.
Yeah, we got a different focus tonight.
So channeling or possession is a point where you are role-playing so hard, you have completely forgotten who you are by day, and you really become this other thing for however long. And you can do this for an hour, for 10 minutes, for days, for months, for the rest of your life. I would argue that people occasionally become different people because they just choose, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm getting married. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to join the military. You've just changed your role play by doing that. You've just channeled the new character. It's just, here's the thing. It's so similar to who you are a moment ago that you don't feel like you got possessed by somebody new. You feel like it's just a natural evolution of the same person. It's not, though. It's a completely new person. It's a completely new identity that you are. So I know this because I've been very skilled at doing this my whole life. And I really did it big time 2 years ago when I got into this scene. Because originally I was doing magic all the time when I was younger. Then I got out of it because I became a skeptic because I had reasons. I didn't want to do this. It was hurting me. It was a problem. It was toxic. I had problems. So I completely ejected from it and I became a skeptic, intentionally so. I was tired of feeling superstitious and being hurt by these things and the shadow people stuff and all that. And I became a rational skeptic. And as I did so, I decided everything I believed was bullshit. And I became a hardcore rational skeptic and I made fun of people like us. Then I had another spiritual awakening and I realized, okay, so I'm non-dual awareness, whatever that means. I can feel this. I feel it. I know it. I know I'm everything. What does that even mean? And as I understood that more and more, I realized, wait a minute. So that kind of means magic is still plausible on some level. At first, I wasn't okay with the supernatural parts, but then I got comfortable with that more and more too. And I realized how that can be rational. Then I realized that there's so much more to this than I ever thought on either one of the two spectrums. When I was a hardcore skeptic, I thought I knew all the answers. When I was a hardcore superstitious magic person, I thought, and now I realize that I was wrong in both and I was right about both, that they come together and it's an even bigger picture than I thought before. Anybody who's living in a purely superstitious world, you only see half the picture. Anybody living in a purely skeptical world, you're only seeing half the picture. You've got to learn where the two intersect rationally, and when you realize that interference pattern creates resonances that work, you realize that's the truth. That's the part that's real that we can all tap into. That's why the rational skeptic is right to tell you it's your imagination, and that's why you're right to work with that imagination and use it as if it's real, because it is real. And the more you realize this, that these things do this, and stop trying to make it some theistic, superstitious mumbo jumbo, or the less you try to make it just psychiatry, the more you realize how connected it is and how much they're the same thing, just different sides of the same coin. The more you recognize that, the more powerful you're going to get. The more aware you're going to get. The more your awareness and consciousness will expand, and you will become much more of that God that you've forgotten that you are. You'll be able to move bigger rocks. So when I was 2 years ago in 2018, when I got into this scene, I decided to stop being the fake motherfucker I had become, who wore more normal clothes, who didn't like the way he looked, who was just a blue-collar worker somewhere, and living a life that was dirty and tiring and miserable, and I wasn't respected for my mind by anybody, and I kept my spiritual and intellectual side very occulted. I didn't bring it out much because nobody respected it. I'm working with people that if I tell them even something basic, if I can't even talk to them about the nature of the sun. There's a guy that I worked with that quite literally, this wasn't a joke, he literally asked the question innocently because he really didn't know. He said, why hasn't NASA landed on the moon yet? Landed on the sun yet? We said, well, because it's the sun. It's like a big ball of fire. Get this. He said, why don't they go at night? He wasn't kidding. He really didn't understand.
This is literally just an old blonde joke.
But it wasn't a joke. This guy was for real. He has a 3rd grade education from the country he comes from. He literally has no idea. Now, no offense to the guy, swell guy, but I can't have these conversations with this guy. He won't understand any of it. So I was not exercising that muscle the way I wanted to. I had to exercise it purely solo, which is a good thing because it meant that I had to play both sides of every argument, and that's what I did. And so I really got good at out-arguing myself, talking to myself, mulling things over, and trying to do it in a way that wasn't an echo chamber, like trying to, okay, if magic is real, what does that mean? If magic isn't real, what does that mean? Let's fight. And the truth is coming out. Okay, I get it. They're both right. So in 2018, when I came back into this scene, it was like, I felt like Batman who'd given up being Batman for 20 years and was wearing like a polo shirt and like normal clothes and like opened up this secret closet, bats come out and like there's like this dark suit and it's like dun, 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 and I put the mantle of darkness back on. I think EA is going to do a book titled Mantle of Darkness. I bet you that's what he's going to do next. Mantle of Darkness. I put the Mantle of Darkness back on. And it felt so good. It felt so good to reintegrate that darkness that I hadn't touched in 10, 20 years. It felt so good to admit I've got very Luciferian, satanic, dark ideations. Things that I will never talk about because you go to jail for some of those things. I will, and we all do them, by the way. I'm not unique in that. I can't imagine someone who hasn't dreamt of putting someone through a sawmill. Oops. That's just a joke, Susan Wojcicki. No one's really thinking that. So in 2018, I took off the mask of the blue-collar, humble Joe that I had become, that I didn't like. I didn't like what I had become. It wasn't me. It was what everybody wanted me to be. I was acting the way everybody expected me to act. I was acting like the good guy, doing the good things.
That social mask that you wore you forgot that you were wearing it.
Yeah. And so once I took the mask off, a big part of that was playing with magic first as a skeptic. When I first did the rituals I did when I first came back into this, it was a test. I literally went out there going, I don't think anything's going to happen, honey. But you never know. I'm just going to have fun doing it because it used to be fun to do this stuff. Even just doing it was fun. Just standing out in the dark with my shirt off with candles and stuff and talking to the night and talking to myself, that was fun. So I'm going to go do that again. And that first ritual blew my freaking balls clean off. Magic completely shot out of my butt. And it was like, what did I do? I almost felt scared because I thought, wait a minute. I used to think I was schizophrenic because I'd see and hear things that I couldn't explain. And I thought they were all in my head, and they probably were. But I ripped that like I had taken like a wooden board, put it over the opening, and I nailed it shut like a zombie door, like zombies were going to come out. And I just ripped that door off and let it all back out. And it was like, now I was ready though. Instead of being an edgy teenager where it's like, I am a fallen angel incarnate and blah, 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 bullshit like that. I integrated so many of those old shadows, like in a day or two. Because now I'm a mature man who was able to see through some of the bullshit that I was doing to myself. And I realized that a lot of those prophecies I had came true. So by role-playing the ritual that night, the first time I went back into that stuff, I role-played it thinking, when I first did this, I decided I'm going to do a ritual in the absolute most legit way possible. I am going to go to every extravagance. I am going to buy the right stuff. I am going to rehearse the ritual a little bit. I'm going to get so that I can read it just right. I'm going to do every step it says. I'm going to get the right incenses. I'm going to do all of this by the book with full... Here's the thing. I knew from prior experience that just standing there reading a book in the dark is not magic. That's not magic. If you think that's magic, go start over. That's not magic. That's reading a book in the dark. I knew that real magic required mentalism. It required imagination. It didn't just require imagination, though. It required emotion and energetic content beyond just saying what I thought. I had to feel what I was saying. As reading that, when I'm conjuring that spirit, not only did I have to visualize that spirit, I had to feel what it was like as if that spirit really showed up and scared the shit out of me. I had to really bring that in and act it and feel that energy just like a stage actor would. Just like a thespian. Don't get your hopes up, Fleshy.
I wasn't going to comment. Actually, you know what? Since I got a word in, we do have a caller lined up to go through Discord. I also have a question if you want to answer it, and a comment from Eddie that I really like as a practical side of things. He said, here's a fun idea. Write a character sheet for yourself as you are.
Sure.
Now write a sheet for yourself as you want to be. Burn the old one. Play the new one for 90 days. See what happens.
Yeah. There's another version like that I got from a guy, JB Perry. I don't know where he got it from. He's probably not here. Usually it's NC Darkness when he's on here. But JB had this idea he told me once. I never thought of this. And I don't know where he got it from. He probably got it from somewhere else too, or maybe did make it up. I don't know. But it was literally like write a story that builds you into the person you want to be. Like write a fake autobiography. If you want to change the way you relate to something in the past, change that. I mean, you're not going to change the literal past, but you can change your ideations of the past for sure. Like there's actually a psychological thing you can do. Like a psychiatrist might tell you, like if you got beat up by a bully, well then in your mind go back to that moment and fight back and change the story. Like relive it, but change it. And if you do that enough times, you can get over the trauma. You won't forget what really happened, but you get over the trauma and you can now face it a little bit better. And it's true. Well, more than that, you can literally do magic where you change yourself and other people by writing out this autobiography of what you think should happen in the future. Write it out. And this is important because when you're doing magic, let's say you're doing a magic for something like money. When you do that ritual, be it high or low magic, whether it's a simple little candle spell or a big ceremony involving a spirit, at some point you've got to invoke into yourself not just the idea of the money. That's important. You need to see that money in your hand or in your wallet or your bank account. You need to see that. Yes, you need to visualize it, but you also have to feel. You have to feel what it feels like when that moment happens. You have to make it as viscerally real as you can and hold that as focused as you can. And then forget it completely, let it go. So you literally have to trance out and visualize that moment when you open up the bank account or open up your wallet and that money that you were hoping for is there and what that's going to feel like. Now, you can do that any way you want. You don't have to do that literally what I'm saying. It could be any staged thing you want to imagine. It could be you go to a restaurant and you can pay for everything because you just won $1,000 on Lotto or something. Don't worry about the specifics at all. Like magic is, like some people say, oh, you got to be like surgically precise with magic. I'm actually the opposite. I tell you to be more like horseshoes and hand grenades. Aim at the broadside of a barn and be happy when you hit it. Because it's not only easier, you're actually trusting your intuition to do what's necessary for it to happen that way. So instead of saying, I need $500, you say, I need wealth. I need fortune. I need, maybe even better yet, why do you need the $500? And then go for the thing that you need the $500 for. Like, okay, I don't really need the money, but I need the liquidity. You know, like I need to buy something, but I don't have the cash. Well, I need the liquidity. And this way, when an opportunity arises to sell your old TV that you don't want, that counts as making the $500. It's a broadside from a ship rather than a sniper shot. And it works really well that way. You're much more like you're casting a wide net and you're getting the more important thing that you're looking for, which is not the specific, it's the bigger picture stuff. So that's a role play. You have to role play that moment in the future when you accomplish that goal. You need to role play that in the ritual at some point. Charge, like if I'm doing a candle spell, I will hold that candle and I will have the ideation of that moment firmly as possible in my mind. And if you can't visualize, that doesn't matter. Imagination is not just visual, guys. Visualization is an important skill, but it's not like all there is. You need to have full immersion in this thing you're looking for. And you need to charge that candle or that crystal or that sigil with that ideation. However, whatever that means to you, if you want to shoot it with chi balls, if you want to shoot it with lightning bolts, if you want to hold it and breathe into it, whatever your way of transferring energy is, you transfer that into your object that is going to be your medium or your ritual or whatever. And then one of the reasons you use a candle is because when it burns down, it's gone. You don't think about it anymore. So you while that candle's burning, look at it frequently and be like, oh, that's what it means. That's what it's for. And visualize that again and pump that energy into it. And then once it's gone, that energy's gone. There's nothing else for it to be attached to, guys. That's what it means. It's not just that you're putting energy into the candle. You're putting energy into the egregore of the candle in your mind. Now, what's the purpose of that? Well, we'll talk about how magic manifests maybe another time, because that could be a 10-hour conversation. But suffice to say, in my opinion, you're not changing reality at all, because I don't think reality changes. What you're doing is you're looking in the multiverse for that event that you want to experience. And like Rick and Morty, you're doing like a spiritual freaking portal gun, and your consciousness is here, and then mandala effect wise, it jumps to a universe where the thing you want is destined to happen. And you just got to wait for everything to play out to get what you wanted. That's more like what I think it is. It's not that you're changing reality, or you are, but you're not changing reality. You're changing realities like you change clothes. So instead of like, well, I wish I didn't have a black shirt on right now. I wish I had a white shirt on. Instead of going and bleaching the shirt and putting it back on as a white shirt, I'm just going to go get a white shirt and put it on. So when you're changing reality with magic, instead of seeing it as you're changing a black shirt into a white shirt, you're just taking off the black shirt and putting the white shirt on. You're changing realities completely. All right, so let's hopefully they want to talk about roleplay, because we're going to talk about the board game part of roleplay too, because there's actually some juicy stuff there too. I do want to bring that up. So,
Yeah,
so don't let me forget.
I do know for a fact that this caller has done tabletops before too. So
Is it Eddie?
it is not
Is
Eddie.
it EA? Is it EA?
It is not EA.
Ooh. Is this someone we've had on before? Do I love them?
Yes and yes.
Oh, I love them too?
Yeah, I tell you what.
Okay.
Go ahead and jump into, and don't forget to mute me. Jump into the live stream channel of Discord.
I don't want to.
Well, that's the way it happens.
All right, let me, okay, so I'm going to jump in there now. I think I know who that is.
You were very close with the second guess, but a generation
Okay,
off.
I'm in there. Fleshy, who do I mute? I mute you on Discord, right? Yeah. There, you're muted on Discord. What is up, sister?
Hey!
Oh, what the?
I feel like I had you on recently. Who is this?
Quitting Junior?
It's a Quetting Junior. What's up, Quetting Junior?
The great and powerful Alex for those of you, because you can't see them right now on camera.
Yeah. What is up? So, yes, you wanted to talk about the topic of roleplay and all that juicy, delicious stuff.
Yes.
So I'll let you have the floor for 5-10 minutes. Say what you want to say. I'm going to sit here in meditation.
I am
I'm gonna talk to you.
specifically super interested to how like multitudes of different mental illness come into play with
Oof.
any kind of role play with Magick, because a lot of people that are mentally ill will go into a kind of role play with like absolutely everything in everyday life. Specifically where you brought up DID earlier, and that
Yep.
a lot of people, I know a couple of people, I'm really close with a couple of people that have DID, and it's interesting to see which ones maintain magical skill and ability, which ones differ in what they're actually interested in, things like that. I had an ex-girlfriend who, like, she herself was not that great with any kind of magic thing. One of her altars was fantastic with it, though.
That's
Right,
really
right.
interesting.
No, that's really important you bring that, because when I used to, as a younger person, I was accused of having multiple personalities, where one was a person who thought he was a demon, right? That's what one person accused me of.
Yeah.
And the irony was, the one who thought he was a demon was capable of doing things that I couldn't do. Usually physical things, but they were things like that they knew. And the story was that I was going to integrate that person, just like out of a movie like Split. That's why Split is one of my favorite movies in the series, because it's like, I get that character. I totally get that character with the Beast. I get that idea of this Ubermensch character that comes out of him. That's like an aggregate of all of them, and because that was like the story when I was younger. It was this demonic figure that I was constantly channeling and talking through, that was capable of, like, it was actually more, honestly, it was more like Fight Club. That's another reason why I like Fight Club, because it's a lot like that too. So here was this part of me that was everything, that my entire shadow that I put away, all of my strengths that I hid because I was abused and stuff, because that's actually what happens when you have like a narcissistic abuser. You don't actually become weak, you actually hide your strength, and that becomes your shadow. Instead of your shadow being weakness, your shadow becomes strength. It's really weird. So that's why Ronzael is such a potent, because that was one of the masks that this kind of thing will wear, and the mask can come out that way. So it has this power that I was able to shift into, and sometimes I did it on purpose, and sometimes I had no control over it. Just like someone with DID, well, they don't usually have control over it. That's why it's disorder rather than just, just like everything in psychiatry, there's the disorder version and there's the spectrum version of it, where, yeah, you're schizophrenic, but it's not a disorder, right? It's just you see stuff.
There is levels of control too. Like, I've known people with DID who can, choose
Snap in and out.
to stick with the split analogy, can choose who goes into the light at any time.
Yeah. Now,
So-
whatever happened, I'm just going to finish this out and you can talk, Alex. I literally was like a Split character in a lot of ways, and I could do stuff. That's why, again, I love that movie Split, because everything he does is physically, rationally possible, but it's still superhuman on some level. And that's the kind of stuff I'd experience. I'd reach into a bonfire, grab the burning embers out of the heart of it, and offer it to someone for a light for a cigarette and not be burned. Now, I know intellectually that there's the Leidenfrost effect, so my hand was probably sweaty, and that's why. But I didn't even get scalded. My hand was fine, and I didn't care. This kind of stuff I couldn't do right now. If I did, I'd be like, no, please! You know, I'd be screaming. I couldn't do that. So, but now I don't experience that anymore. At least not like that. If I do, it's like I just shift into this person. And sometimes I do it on camera, probably, and I don't realize it. It's like it's integrated. Now, so go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
So what's really, really interesting that I've seen with specifically a very close friend of mine that has DID is that people with DID are actively always having a mask to some level, but it's like the people having the mask of whoever the host is and acting like them. So how do you think things like that would affect Magick, like other people living in your head? Or say something like anxiety or depression, which are some of the most absolute common, like you cannot find people that don't have one of them, where there's you're actively changing like every aspect of yourself just a little bit just to be able to function like at all. How much of that would you say is some kind of mask, some kind of character that you're putting on? How much of that do you think affects Magick, and how do you think it would?
So I'm not an expert in psychology, but it is one of my holiday in hobbies is psychiatry. I'm not qualified to talk about it, but I will say my opinion is this. A good portion of all psychiatric issues are somehow biological in some way.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they're chemical, maybe you got part of your brain is in the wrong spot. I don't know because I'm not that kind of expert. But obviously some of it is chemical or biological in nature. It's not something that is just because, like, perfect example, and I don't mean to, hopefully this is in the right direction. Hopefully this comes out right. Just like 20 years ago, even mainstream science thought that gender issues, gender dysphoria, whatever, was a decision, right? That you were gay because you wanted to be gay. Like you had, obviously people who are like that have just like I have no choice in being, what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So that's people have this misconception that psychiatric things are some kind of, on some level, a choice, because there's this meme and this trope that if you go sit in the chair long enough and therapists will guide you through your traumas, that you can untangle that web and realize, hey, I don't really have anxiety. That's just an act I'm doing. So no, that's not the case. For 90% of what we call disorders in psychiatry, it is not because your mom spanked you too much as a kid. That's not it. Unless there's like some other component to it. So what does that mean? So people have asked me, they haven't asked me, but I've asked myself when I first got back into this, how is it possible to be an enlightened being who's aware of their divinity and yet still experience anxiety and depression? How's that possible? Shouldn't I be always happy knowing I'm God? No, that's not how this works. Yeah. Just like if you shoot me in the head and I fall over dead, that doesn't make me less of a god. That just means that this body got shot in the head. That's all it means.
So
the avatar is done. So your avatar can have, and they're not flaws. Don't see. I don't like treating these things as flaws. Really, not really. They can be inhibiting. They can be a disadvantage, but I don't see them as a flaw because that's what you're kind of meant to be.
So my next question is relating to mental illness and how it relates to godhood. Is which, like you just said, like you are able to maintain both having active mental illness and being an active god, but what level do you think it is? Like, what level of control do you think you need to have over your mental illness to make it so that it's not incapacitating in some level to your godhood? Yeah. Or is everything substantially incapacitating to godhood, and therefore that's what you're actively trying to break free from?
So I don't think that anything's incapacitating to godhood. I think the misconception is that mental illness stops you from being God. That's not it at all. God is God no matter what God is. Okay? So God is in your shit. And God doesn't see that as a bad thing. God is in the amoebas eating the poop right now. That's God too. God is everything. Okay, let me put it to you like this. How many of you guys, including people on camera right now and on video, how many of you guys use the Kabbalah? How many of you guys use that system at all?
Nope.
I know you don't, Flashy. How many people listening to me?
Right there.
How many? That was beautiful, actually. Thank you. Thank you, Alex, for supplying the crickets. I know. I gotta visit you guys. Damn it.
Yeah, middle of fucking nowhere, Utah.
Sounds
Man,
perfect.
great to hide my newly skinny body, isn't it?
It's perfect until you get a gun pulled on you for going 35 down the street.
Well, then you pull one back, right? You just do it out the back door. Anyway, so
I'm gonna cut in real quick with something Eddie said I'd like. Having anxiety and depression is how I play this game on hard mode. I'm that awesome. God had to nerf me.
right there you go. No, without those things, you're not here to be God right now. Say that to yourself again. You're not here to be God right now. If you were, you would just go, "Holy shit, I'm God!"
I feel like
that'd
that
be it. You'd be
contradicts
done.
everything you've said in every stream ever.
How so?
That's because you are God.
Yes.
Wake up, the four fundamentals are holding
Yeah,
you back.
well,
It's you're
No, it's
walk
not
for
holding you
yourself.
back. No. See, you inserted holding you back. In fact, I told you it's not a problem. Like, those 4 fundamental delusions are not a flaw. You're not trapped. You're not a prisoner. This is why you're here. You are here to not be God right now.
Are you?
This is actually, if you look at the ancient mystery schools, again, I love talking about the mystery schools because they figured this out. They recognize that you're here as a mortal because that's the only way you can be immortal. You have to be mortal before you can be immortal. You have to be immortal so you can be mortal. It's 2 sides of the same coin. If you don't experience mortality, immortality has no meaning. If you don't experience mortality in mundane life, being a god lacks meaning. So you're here not to be God right now. But part of not being a God right now is realizing you are a God and becoming more like that God every time you do this. Maybe the day you die, if you properly integrate this truth, maybe if your ego is on a trajectory where the ego goes, "You're right, I'm not God, but I am a mask of God, and that's pretty fucking awesome. I am the avatar of God. I'm going to roll with that." When you die or when you have your psychedelic trip and your ego gets dissolved for a moment, instead of going, "Oh, this sucks, I'm dead," instead you go, "Oh, that was fucking cool. Who's next?" And now the journey changes. It becomes a different. Instead of having to learn what you are the hard way, you can now play with that, and you can ascend gradually through whatever you want, or you can just wake up all the way at once. People have this. Here's the thing: you want to wake up and be God because you hate not being God, and that's going to make being God that much further away because you don't realize that by thinking that, you're already putting yourself into a prison that's not a prison. You're basically saying, "Oh man, I wish I was God right now." Because when you say that, you're literally saying, "I'm not God right now."
Would you go?
You're reinforcing the not God.
Would you go as far in the opposite direction as to say that, like, mental illness can inherently help awaken whatever kind of godhood through the strife?
There is absolutely no wrong direction to godhood.
That's a very safe answer.
No, there is literally no wrong direction to godhood. All paths go there.
That way, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's wrong.
Well, it couldn't be wrong because if you're God right now, there's literally no way you can stop being God. So you're God right now, pretending you're not, because that's what you want to be. You want to not be God for a little while. You're pretending to not be God because you want to play the game. You will wake up when you're ready to wake up, and you'll wake up all the way. And when you do, see, a lot of people in the old stories would say, "Oh, when you become God, when you become the living God, when you resurrect in the Osiris form, when you do all that stuff and you have that experience of rebirth, you become God and you create your own universe." And that's a play on words like a Japanese koan. You are told this. It's a carrot on a stick that you're going to keep chasing, just like they tell these young little people, these young mucks that shave their head and they stare at a wall. "Okay, go find yourself, stare at this wall forever. You can become enlightened, just stare at this wall." And the longer they keep trying to find themselves, the harder it's going to be. Do you know when you become enlightened? It's when you give up trying to be. Do you know when you become God? It's when you give up trying to be and you realize you already are. When that happens, you realize that the stars in the sky, you put them there.
It's about not sitting at the playground and thinking, "How am I going to have fun here? I must learn how to have fun in this playground before I start having fun," and just going out and getting dirty.
Oh no, that's where anxiety comes into play.
You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be able to make the sun go up and down in the sky. You're not going to have like that, what is it, the what's his name? I hate his name. I hate him so much, but it was a funny movie. Where he was God for a little while,
Jim
Morgan
Carrey,
Freeman.
Bruce Almighty?
Yeah, Jim Carrey. Yeah, Bruce Almighty. When he can make the sun go up and down, or bring the moon in and all that stuff. That's not what being God is. When you recognize that you're God, you realize that everything is already exactly as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Not your ego. See, you're confusing your ego.
It's being Morgan Freeman
God.
and not Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
Morgan Freeman is godhood.
So you realize that everything, including your ego's silly little wants and desires, is exactly the way it's supposed to be. But when you transcend your ego, you realize my ego's going to have its wants and needs, and that's what they're there for. That makes the game more fun. It's so much better. Like, have you ever made a dinner or a food that you couldn't wait to eat, but you intentionally took an extra minute to just sit there and smell it and just be like, "Ooh, I want this motherfucker," before you ate it? Or edging, we all know what edging is. How many people edge, right?
I look away for 1 second to do backhand shits, and I hear edging. What the fuck just happened? What the fuck did I walk in on?
Godhood, you walked in on godhood and masturbation.
Oh, okay,
dude,
good. This sounds like
God masturbates all the time. I got to tell you.
On
right
one
now,
hand,
okay?
you can move the sun. On the other hand,
on both hands, we can. Yeah. But legit, like there is no profanity. There is no blasphemy. There is no heresy. All of it is valid, the good and the evil. All of it is God doing its thing. That means the anxiety, the depression, all of that. Everything is a path to God. This is an ancient Buddhist teaching too, if you understand what they meant when they said, how does one become enlightened? There's Buddhist ways, there's not Buddhist ways. Some are long, some are short. There is no right or wrong way to enlightenment. There is no right or wrong way to divinity. Everything is a path to divinity. I don't care what it is that you're doing. It's just some of them will feel longer than the others. Okay. Some of them are a way of putting it off a little bit further. So the right-hand path is like a long way. And it's a good way in some ways because you're taught to extinguish the ego and to join with the divine as God. And, I'm not God, I'm just stupid little me.
So stepping away from the what path do you take, how would you, and going back into more of the mental illness, how would you look at specifically depression, like people that have been depressed since childhood that are in such a constant state of they don't exist, they're not real, it doesn't matter, that they have no sense of self at all? How would you equate someone in that position to going to some kind of godhood or some kind of enlightenment or whatever you'd call it? Because it goes back to the don't try, the find yourself, stop trying to find yourself, but how do you do that when you've never had a sense of self?
Yeah, I think that whole I don't have a sense of self is like, yes, you do have that, because I get it. I get that, not that severe, but I do get that melancholy where it's like, meh, nothing is good. I don't care about anything. Who am I right now anyway? I'm bullshit. This doesn't matter. That's still not no identity. It's that the identity mask is gray. It's still an affirmation of self, though, is what I'm saying. There's still an affirmation of self going on when you say I don't have a self. It's
not necessarily people that don't have a self, but people that have been so severely mentally ill since such a long time ago in childhood that sense of self is almost non-existent. Like, it's still there, but it doesn't. Or like CPTSD, for example, which is like anyone that's had to actively shift who they are and who they're actively pretending to be to the people around them.
See, it's more of a motivational issue. It's more of a motivational issue, in my opinion. And again, it's biological and chemical. So it's like being drunk. Like Alan Watts died a drunk. Does that mean he wasn't enlightened? No, it just means that he had an illness. That's all. The Buddha died because he was poisoned. He was murdered, literally murdered. Like, everyone thinks he just died because he ate pork. I used to think that too. Then I found out, no, the proper translation is he was murdered.
No, but anyway, I'm definitely seeing like you can 100% still get enlightened. That's not what's in question. It's more how different is the path and what steps what steps are changed with mental illness? What
So
mass?
I was kind of getting to that, but I will say to cut that off a little bit. There's an old story in Zen of there was let me see if I can remember the exact wording to make it fun. There was these two monks at a temple, and this one monk was more of like the I don't remember his name. He was like one of the patriarchs, one of the big guys. And he goes to this temple, and this one monk is meditating. And he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm meditating to become enlightened." He says, "Oh, that's interesting." And he picks up a piece of poop or something. I don't remember. It was literally something profane like that, and just starts polishing it and rubbing it. And the other monk's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm polishing it." And he says, "Why?" He's like, "I'm trying to make a mirror." And that monk is like, "Well, no amount of polishing will turn that piece of poop into a mirror." And then he says, "And no amount of meditation will make you enlightened." The meaning of this is very simple. No path leads. There is no way to make you enlightened. There is literally no way to cause you to become God. Instead, you have to recognize that when your divinity is ready for you to wake up, there's a billion different ways you can do it. And when I say billion, I mean uncountable number of ways. The path could be instantaneous. Let me give you a secret. Did I wake up to this by any specific technique? No. I was actually writing this the other day because I wanted to emphasize that nothing in the book I was writing will make you wake up. None of this will make you realize you're God. You will realize you're God when you're ready to. Whether it's anxiety-filled, depression-filled, DID-filled experience, it doesn't matter. You could be on death row with every drug in the world stuck in your arm and wake up in the middle of a haze.
Oh,
it can happen.
I am God.
Yeah, well, you're God right now too, but yes, I know what you're saying. So there is no way to cause godhood to flourish in your awareness. It doesn't work. What's actually happening is, I've often said that magic always requires a path of least irrational resistance. In other words, your dream must make sense to you by nature of the way the dream works. If it doesn't, it falls apart. You have cognitive collapse, kind of like in Total Recall, where it's like you're going to have a schizophrenic embolism. It's kind of like that. Your divinity is either going to wake you up all at once, or it's going to put you on a path that requires meditation and ritual practice and this kind of thing and chemicals and blah, 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 blah. Or you're literally just going to wake up one day and it's not an intellectual revelation. It's nothing that you realize. I cannot, no matter what I do, Alex, no matter how hard I try, no matter how convincing my argument, I can't make you realize you're God. You can become convinced of it and say, I'm God, D.H. Thorne says so. That doesn't mean you've had the divine experience yet. It just means that you know how to parrot the logic of it. So all these paths don't give you the experience yet. However, I will say this. By doing these practices, you're bringing the resonance of divinity closer and closer and closer to your ego's awareness, to your ego experience. The more you act like God, the more you do God-like things, the more that resonance, just like when you're channeling a spirit, something clicks. Now, again, it's not going to happen till your divinity is ready for you to do it. You can't make it happen. But by doing that, the gap is less and less and less. And it's kind of like this. Do you cause awakening or do you predict it and follow it? It's indistinguishable. If you are God,
prophecy.
Right. If you are God, that means you're omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. You're all of it.
Do you think there are people that are inherently either too mentally ill or too broken or just like completely incapable of coming to the awake realization of that they're God?
Not in the people that would none of those things are
ideology.
None of those things could ever stop God from waking up. You're literally saying God is not all powerful when you say that. God, you can do anything. Not you, Alex. God, you can do anything. Alex is a mask. It can be thrown off. This goes for Alex. It goes for Thorne. It goes for anybody. Someone with the worst psychological condition ever. That doesn't mean that psychological condition will stop.
If you're
because
looking
that's
at
part of
the physical realm of everyone being inherently in different bodies, there's no way for God to be 100% completely awake if there is any single individual that hasn't come to the conscious realization of that.
No, that's not true at all. You're still living in a temporal world where you think that you can't be everywhere all at once or nowhere. If you're omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, that means you're present at all times too, not just in all places. You're present in all times too. Alex, you are literally me in another life right now.
Yeah.
You are literally me in another life right now.
If you're looking at the physical, though, these are the people around me, these are everyone who embodies God, who I embody, who is a part of me and who is separately. Those people, a lot of them are not aware of this at all, and they cannot be made aware, they cannot be made to the realization at all. So couldn't you argue that God is never 100% aware?
Are you aware right now?
Is anyone? I'm aware of voices
aware.
and
Fleshy, are you aware,
light
Fleshy?
and noise, which is all incredibly easily manipulated by.
Fleshy, are you aware right now? Just the simple answer. Are you aware right now? Yes or no?
No one
I like
is.
to pretend.
So everybody's going to answer yes. I'm aware right now. If you don't, then you need to go see a doctor real quick because there's a problem. Everybody's aware right now. If we're all God, that means God is aware of all things right now. So who is it that's not aware of all things right now? What's actually happening is there's a forgetting going on. Now you're saying God can't be aware of all of it at once, but it is. It's just that it's forgetting it's aware of all of it at once. That's the power of this ignorance. It is completely all-encompassing, but here's the caveat. There is a part of that divinity that's still aware of all of it without forgetting. And that is a completely unrelatable experience. You and I will never understand it as humans. You and I in this moment cannot have that experience because our being is compacted into this little aperture. We have limited our view, like we have blinders on. Okay. But remember the saying that I had that one time. I said, you think you live in a prison, but you're really on both sides of the walls.
Yeah.
You're like the air in the prison. You're on both sides right now. It's just that you have simplified your awareness to just being Alex right now. And I'm going to tell you that my experience of awakening did involve an expansion of awareness that I can't explain and I can't even describe, because when I had it, I know I was aware of things that I'm not aware of now. I know that for a brief moment, I was aware of being D.H. Thorne, but at the same time, more and more and more of my environment at the same time. I can't describe that because it doesn't fit in this. Like, there's only room for so much input at once in a brain. You can only put so much realization and understanding at the same time. Can you imagine what it's like to see in 360 degrees? Your father, I know, can. I know he's got a meditation where you do that. I've used it too. But
yeah.
Can you go further than that? Can you get to the point where not only can you see 360, but you can see 360 from the perspective of a spider in the room with you at the same time as you? How much can you fit in your awareness at once? There's only so much, because you are intentionally a limited aperture. But you can pull back.
I've got a very genuine question.
Mm-hmm.
How can you argue that God is completely aware when so many aren't even aware to the fact that they are God, or that haven't even had the realization?
Because again,
this
you're
is what I am.
limiting
if they're
God
not aware
to one.
The fact that they're God, they're not aware.
You're limiting God to
much.
one place. You're limiting God to one identity, which is not what's happening. God is all identities all the time.
It's definitely not one identity, but it's encompassing of everything. And I find it very, very hard to believe that absolutely everything all the time can be aware of this.
I don't see why you wouldn't. I'm not sure why that doesn't make sense. I think that what it is that you are looking at it from your limited perspective, like we all do, because we all look at it from that same limited central perspective. And I go, well, how come I don't know what Flesh Priest is thinking right now? if I'm God, I should know what he's thinking right now. No, you shouldn't. In the same way that you don't remember what you were thinking 20 days ago at this exact moment. You don't have a memory of everything you've ever experienced, do you? No, you don't. So you don't have an experience of everything that you're doing even right now. You are a focused awareness right now. However, that experience doesn't mean that you weren't there. See, memory is not awareness. Memory itself is not awareness. Memory is a thing that sort of is something awareness can experience.
So
yeah, they're
time is completely fake, and everyone is just as encompassed with everyone else as they are God, because we are all God. Like that, I am completely understanding of that. The part that I'm most hesitant on presently is that God, in every form it takes, in every individual, can't be conscious to every form of it being God inherently, so that there isn't complete awareness, because there are people that aren't aware to the fact that they are God, even if they are, and even if they're not the only one actively encompassing God, even if sometime in the future they may, or sometime in the past they did, but future and past are bullshit, but wherever they are right now they don't, then there's not complete awareness of Godhood.
Well, see, again, you're still thinking temporally without realizing it. You're still thinking in a temporal way. There's that basilisk demon, the basilisk, whatever it's called, that basilisk, the such and such basilisk thing, where a million years from now, they create a basilisk that will bring you back to life and torture you if you don't make it real right now. If you understand that at some point, either in the very distant past or the very distant future, you were aware of everything, then really you're thinking too linearly when you say there are people right now that are not aware they're God, so therefore God isn't aware of itself all the time, or whatever. Like you're saying, God's not aware of everything at once. That's not true. It's just that you're still thinking in the sense of a limited Atman, that is reality at the moment.
But even if you're not looking at it linearly, actively ignoring whatever past, present, future, everyone is everyone all the time. It's what moment you are presently conscious to. Mm-hmm. There are still forms of God that don't seem to have that realization or recollection, and that's in what they're conscious to. That's like this moment, whatever present is what we're conscious to, and there are people in this present that aren't conscious to the fact that they are God.
Mm-hmm. So again, God made a rocket can't move because it forgot that it can move it for a little while. But that God can move it anytime it wants to and recognize it's all of it anytime it wants to. And be aware of all of it anytime it wants to. And when it does that, when it restores the 3 O's, then that means all of it, including the ignorant people right now that don't know that they're God, it sees them as itself at that moment and goes, oh, look over there, I don't realize I'm God right now, but over there I do. There is no limit to what it can do. There's no limit to its awareness of its divinity. It's that it focuses itself down for a little while. And it's not a temporal focusing. It's not really even a little while. It's, are you experiencing a temporal world? Then you're living in a limited way.
I'm more asking about specifically the people, the human bodies that are in such ignorance that they don't even realize that they're creating a rock. Mm-hmm. Because that's such a foreign concept. Like complete ignorance to that. Couldn't mm-hmm. that be argued that that's a lack of consciousness and no. I guess
it's just a limitation of perspective is all it is. So in a way, you're still aware of everything that is. You're just not consciously aware of it in a human sense. Everything in the universe, however big it is, infinite or not, is influencing you right now to experience the world you're experiencing. You can't measure all of it even with the most sensitive instrument. But if even one atom was out of place 100 billion light years away, the universe would not be what it is for you. It would be something different. You might not be able to measure the difference, but it would be different, and it would be something that is different for you. So you're literally in a finite perspective right now. In this moment of experience, whatever you want to call that, temporal, atemporal, whatever you want to call it, you are in that moment. But when it's time, that will cease. And even those people who are not aware of that, they'll continue to not be aware of that, but the higher self is aware that they're not aware of that. It's kind of like this whole conversation about the higher self that so many systems have. This higher self we're talking about is the part of you that recognizes itself. And it recognizes more, like we expand our consciousness, like I was getting at with my awakening. I began to expand my conscious awareness to things that I can't explain that were not D.H. Thorne. And none of them were aware of their divinity at the time. The tree I was talking to and watering at the time didn't know it was God.
So,
but I knew that I was the tree.
Call the opposite of the higher self, like the lower self, I guess.
That's why I don't love the word higher self, but I use it because it's a linguistic device. I don't like it because when we say higher and lower, we create this hierarchy as if there is a subordinate and a. So what I mean by higher self is a higher resolution. It's a bigger, like you're zooming out, like you're zooming back.
I understand the concept. What word would you use for like the lower self version? Because that sounds like a shitty way to say it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I don't even like that. I mean, the embodied state.
The embodied state. So I guess the biggest miscommunication is the perspective I'm at is what the embodied state doesn't realize. The embodied state is still sheltering and holding some kind of God, but there are so many embodied states that are completely sheltered and ignorant to the idea. And if they're stuck in those embodied states and refuse to look at the higher
you're never stuck.
Or the
you're not
higher
stuck.
state.
You're not stuck. You're not stuck.
Oh no.
You're not stuck in it. Like, I mean, all the language you're using is still embedded in an ego argument. You're not stuck in it. You are resisting it. Not like Thorne's right and I'm just denying it because I don't mean that.
General you.
Right. I mean,
not
there's a resistance there because you don't want to wake up yet. You think you do because that's the ego going, I want to wake up because then I'd be God. Wouldn't that be cool?
No, I definitely get that.
Yeah. I'm
understanding all of that. The question is how much of not understanding and not knowing, how much of that ego state needs to come into play before there's a level of God is not completely conscious of themselves in every state they're in. Again,
I think that the question is moot. I don't think it's actually a real question in what we're talking about. I think that
that's fair.
It's a question from an embodied state. So it's difficult to answer in a way because it's like no matter what I say that answers it, and I'm not saying this like in a rude way. No matter what I say that answers it won't satisfy the ego. Because the ego wants to own it. The ego wants to be that. The ego wants to understand it. It doesn't fit in the ego. So your awareness is always absolute. You just portion off what you allow that awareness. Your awareness portions off what it allows itself to be aware of from a different perspective. At any point, that awareness can pull back and know everything. In fact, I know there's a time that happens, probably every night when you go to sleep. But you don't bring that back into the embodied state, so the embodied state forgets for a while. But again, there's no time. So you can't say that right now God is incapable. That's not it. God is capable at any moment.
It's not
of anything.
Incapable inherently, but it's more like complete unaware and ignorance, and how much of that. Yeah, I've mostly been looking at like how much of that ignorance is needed before it's considered completely unaware. And that if form of it,
even a rock has consciousness,
is completely unaware, then it's not fully aware ever.
Even a rock has consciousness. There is no such thing as there is no awareness of anything at all.
Awareness of God. Awareness of being God. Self-awareness, I guess.
Your awareness is always self-aware. Awareness must have something to be aware of, or else it's not awareness. If you are awareness, if that's what God is, in order for God to be, it must be aware of something. So what is the only thing if that's all there is? If all there is awareness, then awareness must be aware of itself. That's it.
I like that answer.
That's the key. That's step, that's the beginning of the question and the answer. When you do the right meditation, right? And it doesn't cause this, but when you do the right meditation, you come to the conclusion at some point, the only thing I know for sure is that I'm aware. That's it. That's the only thing I can prove, is that I'm aware. And then you have to ask yourself, well, then what's all this? If none of this is real, if none of this exists, and the only thing I can prove is awareness, what is awareness aware of? It's aware of itself. Because awareness can be aware of itself. That's what we call consciousness. So there's awareness and consciousness. Let's go with the Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. Well, the first 1 and 1 is awareness and consciousness. Awareness, aware of itself, is consciousness, makes 2. So it's really 1, because the first one and the second one are still the same 1. 1, 1, 2. 1 is aware of it. 1 is there. It has to be aware of itself. So it's like 1 and 1. Aha! It's like a 2. That's how you get consciousness.
So
consciousness is the imploding fractal of awareness, if you will.
I'm curious. What do you think of the? I can't remember the name of the guy who came up with it, but the theory that there are 2 types of people inherently, and it's like creatures of fire and creation and magic, and then just creatures of earth and clay, like the ones that have the self-awareness and the creativity and the full magic force, and then the people that are just kind of there.
So what's the question, though? You said that there's an author said that.
What do you think of it?
So what do I think of there being creatures that are, like, say it again, but maybe
okay,
sharpen it.
Yeah, sorry, phrasing.
That's okay.
Fuck, I can't remember the name of the guy.
Don't worry about that part. I'm very simple-minded. I can only hold like 2 ideas at a time.
Some old magic theory that there are 2 types of people, and that they're the type that are like magic, that have a spark in them, like a fire in them, and then they're the types that are just kind of clay people, just kind of like empty.
Oh yeah, okay. So that there's like like NPCs versus like awake people and stuff.
What do you think of that?
I think a lot of that is, maybe not all of it, but a lot of that is an ego game. I think a lot, like, I can't stand when people say like, oh, muggles, there's muggles everywhere, and they'll say it jokingly, but they really mean it deep down inside. They really feel superior to people because they can do magic. That's just the ego being an asshole. That's all it is. It's not real. It's the thing is, when you're dreaming, everything's an NPC, including yourself. You're just piloting one of them. You're just seeing through the eyes of one of them. And the idea that there's clay people with no soul and stuff, everything has an inner world. Everything, even a rock. Everything does. The thing is that we are not always privy to what that inner world, we don't always relate to it. So we look at people and say, oh, they're clay and they're fire, because that clay person, they're empty inside, they don't feel the way I do. That is an ego game. That's because ego likes to validate itself by either being the victim or the winner. It must win or it must lose. That's part of the ego game. So it must look at, like, just like we look at our dog, we go, I love my dog, but that's not as advanced as I am. I'm much better. I'm much more intelligent than the dog does. It's just not. And that's a unfortunate tendency in consciousness. It's a very unfortunate tendency in human beings, but it's actually there for a reason, because eventually that whole game is going to get ripped out from under you. And you're going to, at some point, either because you're dead or you have the right trip or you have the right meditation, you're going to wake up one day and go, yeah, that was bullshit, wasn't it? And that doesn't mean you'll stop judging people or feeling superior or inferior to them on different reasons and stuff. But you will recognize at your core, somewhere, a kind of compassion, even for things that you think of as they must be inferior because I can do this. You realize, kind of like you can have the ideation of anything but not act on it. Just like that, you can have the ideation of being superior but realize that you're not. And when I say that, I mean, yes, I'm superior in intellect compared to my dog, but that is also God looking at me. It's not a clay creature just because I don't recognize its body language as being alive. Those clay people, like I've got people in my family that I can't read as well, and it took me longer to read them. I usually read people like I'm 98%, like within 5 minutes, I can just about figure out what you're thinking.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you let me, or yeah, we're gonna have to go to another guest in a minute because I got another person, but I want to finish this thought. So the just because you can't read them as being alive doesn't mean they're not alive. And when I say that, I mean like in the clay fire sense.
Okay.
There's people in my family who I look at them and I'm like, they're really hard to penetrate. I can't read their body language really that well. Like, are they mad at me? Do they not like me? Do they like me and are afraid to show it? And it took me a while to pick up their baseline and realize that there's an inner world in them that's just as deep as mine. It's just maybe they don't intellectualize it the same way and they don't show it on the outside the same way. Like my snake, right? I got a snake. This person you're talking about would probably say that maybe a snake is a clay person, right? Because a snake, it's hard to read them if you're not highly developed in your sensitivity. Reptiles are harder to read, or insects. Insects are even harder.
So
you think reptiles are more relatable than an insect is?
One more final question, and this one can be quick. Do you feel like there's any potential benefit to a feeling of superiority?
There's no drawback.
No,
here's the
really,
thing.
really good.
No, but I would have temperance with it. I am one of the first and only people to tell you to not be afraid of being arrogant so long as you're compassionate about it. So long as you look at the world and suggest and encourage other people to be just as arrogant as you. You know, I practice what's called self-centered compassion, which means I become so self-centered that I care about everybody. Like I look at myself and go, I can't prosper unless everybody's doing well.
And that goes back to everything being inherently selfish in some way.
Sure, but it's also inherently compassionate in some way, because if we're all the same thing, if I benefit myself, I'm benefiting everybody, and if I benefit Flesh Priest, I'm benefiting me. It transcends selfishness. So it's kind of a play on words again. When I say I am so selfish, I'm compassionate, it's a play on words. Because I don't really feel like I'm that selfish. If you ask my wife, there's a big inner world where I'm very much like, is this going to help somebody? How can I help them? Like, I'm a real sweet guy if you get to know me. But I do that because I love it. I love how it feels. I love feeling like a good person. I love feeling compassionate.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of the higher compassion is hands-off. That's why you have that statement that, kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey to the fish as he carried him up a tree. So that's the compassion of a fool. The compassion of a fool is a Christian saying, don't abort that baby, don't be gay, don't be this, don't be that, or we'll stone you. That's the compassion of a fool. They think they're helping the world as they torture and destroy. And I would argue that 90% of the things that you think you do to help the world destroy some part of it. So you either have to be comfortable with that fact and let go. It's all ego at the end of the day. It's all it is. And when I say ego, I mean in that toxic way. It's all that toxic ego at the end of the day. If you want to help the world and you own it and you go, I want to help the world be a better place. If you're ignorant of the real reason you're doing it, then that's the karma you're trying to avoid. If on the other hand you realize that you're doing it for a selfish ultimate reason, you tend to be okay. But anyway,
it's been a good discussion. Thank you for having me on.
Alex, love you so much.
Yeah.
Hug your data for me and come back again real soon. And I love your brain, girl. I love your brain. Oop, I did.
I'll say.
I love the brain you got going there.
I'll say.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Despite coming at things from different angles, who wins when DH and Alex are arguing? The viewers.
All of y'all. And I didn't think any of that was an argument. No, that was not at all an argument. That was literally.
It was a healthy argument.
I didn't see that as an argument. That was literally round peg, square hole. Let's see if we can fit this. No, let's try a different peg. Not an argument. We were trying to fit ideas together.
About arguing, DH.
Yeah, no. We weren't arguing. I don't consider that an argument. Not even a little bit. I love it so much. All right. So thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. You are a genius waiting to have a future.
Whatever rest of your stream.
My voice is going. I'm only going to do it for another half hour.
Oh, they left. Alex is fucking great.
No, for real. For real. there's a future there that's going to be like, what? So, for sure.
Absolutely.
I got to take a sip of some sweet shot to make my throat. I have like a mild, I sneezed like 12 times in a row yesterday. My throat just feels like I like swallowed a little bit of like Brillo. And it's like scratchy. So I probably got a cold. I think I have the coof. I'm going to die. If I die from the coof, nobody curse me, guys, okay?
What have you been drinking? Like who have you been kissing that got you all like that?
The only thing I can think of, because I never get sick, dude. You know, like, when was the last time you heard of me even like having short of like, having the dumps or something. How often? I never get sick.
Not really.
So the only thing I can think of is that I spit gum out into a plastic thing I found on the floor because I didn't have anything in it. It was like, oh, I gotta get rid of this. I was like reaching around. I was busy doing something. I was just reached over and grabbed something that looked like it would work. And it was probably something that had something in it that I shouldn't have done. Like it came from like a store somewhere. So I don't know.
Oh,
probably somebody's like germs or like, I don't know. Maybe it's anthrax that went through the mail. So I'll fight it off like I do everything. I'll rub some dirt on it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, you're the only thing that can take you out.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to rest my breath for a minute. When you're ready to bring in the next person, is this just a Skyper?
No, actually, everybody from here on out will be on Discord, so we could just stay comfy in here for a minute. They're getting back to
I hate Discord.
So we had somebody really wanting us to get back to the games discussion, to the role play aspect of everything. So I'm curious to see if the caller is going to talk about some of
steer us back the right way. Well, actually, if it's the person I think it is, they probably should have been on for a minute with Alex, because I believe that they do have a background in psychology. So maybe. So if they're ready, just drag them in, and they can I'll let them talk for a minute. And comment.
Speak of the devil, it's exactly who you think it is. Let me just drag this motherfucker in here.
All right. Yeeting can be used in the assertive sense, in the positive sense, right? Like you yeet them in.
That's a
or is
yoink,
it only
not a yeet.
Okay, so yoink them in. Please.
Yeah, it's the opposite. And here they are, the great and powerful Vatorius.
Vatorius. What kind of voice are you gonna have? Let's hear it.
Vatorius.
Oh, that's almost too much. That is very choppy, Vatorius.
Oh, I was hoping it was just for me.
No, that was very, very choppy, I have to say. Oh, no.
Fuck.
Didn't you fix this, Richie?
I was trying to fix it with him, and I had to just download the program and work on it myself, and I haven't got back to him because fucking chaos in my life, including reformatting a hard drive. What could go wrong? Lots of things.
Plushy, I was so looking forward to flogging you this week, and I can't now.
I know, I haven't earned my punishment yet.
Is there anything we can do to get his audio working well enough? Because I really want to hear what he has to say, because I promised them too, not only among other things.
Vatorius, if you're using the patch that we tried to make last week, I'd switch it to the one that you were using previously.
I'm not really sure. Can I just
Oh man, that's awful. It's so choppy.
Yeah, there's no way we can do it. We'll give him a minute, and then we'll move on, because we can always bring him back if we can't get it working. But damn.
Fucking goddamn it.
Damn, got it.
This is what I get for not being more on it. Because we were.
I think you were on it.
Not as much as. Oh fuck! It's still choppy, dude.
It's choppy. Like I'm not a voice expert. Is it a connectivity issue?
It was almost better, but then it came right back to choppy. I heard something and then it went away.
So that's a connectivity issue.
Oh, it's not even the voice mod, it's the internet. The dreaded internet.
Oh.
In the basement of hell. Did that come through?
I know, like, I'm looking to move soon, and I got to get at least 100 megabit connection. I cannot do my life without at least 100 megabyte connection, so.
Okay.
On the bright side, somebody says it sounds like the Lord Satan himself.
Right? It's a good voice mod, dude. I wish, so if it's not the voice mod, then it just means, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to fix that with all my tech knowledge. I'm not sure how to fix that, short of... maybe lowering the bit rate on your Discord. If you go to Discord, can you lower? It probably does that automatically though. It probably has you on the list.
Yeah, I have it on my stupid Discord. It says fix automatic or some bullshit.
It's working now for a second. I don't know what you did. Nope, it stopped working again.
Wait, fuck! It might be his fucking
input sensitivity.
Yeah, try moving really close to the mic, like almost deep throat it.
Is that a lot better?
Maybe echo cancellation, turn that off. Or noise reduction.
Oh, yeah. Echo cancellation, kill that shit. That will just interfere with the settings you have on your voice mod.
Oh, what about, can you hear me now?
That sounds
definitely a little better.
Okay,
keep
so
trying.
I'm talking right into the mic.
Almost. It's definitely better. It is definitely better. I can tell you it's better. Turn off all the bullshit. Like turn off echo cancellation, noise reduction, and I guess advanced. We'll just turn them on one by one again if we can get it to work. Yeah, no.
Everybody, when you hang out with us, get ready for technical difficulties. You're the masters of it.
If you enjoyed this content, donate now.
If you want it to get better and you just feel really bad, please hit us with a super chat so we can send that money to our friend. All right, so this is what I'm going to say, Vittorius. If it's not improved right now, let's. I mean, if you want to be a scheduled guest, we'll do you as a scheduled guest soon. So
yes, okay, I can do that.
Okay. If you wouldn't,
Alex's questions, they were so motivating for me to call.
I know. The little bit I got from that says you were so motivated. In case people can't understand, you were so motivated by those questions. I was actually looking forward to your answers. Like we should have brought you right in, but I'm kind of glad we didn't because then we'd be derailed by the audio. But if you want to write an answer and have Fleshy read it for us,
a blessing.
like
How
really
about
quick.
I use my God voice? My God voice.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to give Fleshy a short write-up of what you would have said, maybe he can read it before we're done tonight. That would be cool. Or
Yes,
we can
I will do that. Go to ball.co/Satan to get my work contributed in the, what was it? Oh, the Satan Compendium, my piece called Satanic Psychotherapy.
Yeah, so Vittorius wrote a segment in the Compendium of Satan under bald.co. If you go there, it's a lot better than the echoes.
If you're listening, go read that book. It's probably in your father's library.
Probably is.
Probably have like 100 of them. I don't know how the logistics of the company works. Maybe all his product is selling to smoke. I don't know. Maybe I have 100 of them. 666.
He's got 666 copies, and they're all at the neighbor's house. All right, Victorious, let's have you back on soon. Maybe even, I don't know if you're interested in Musashi, but if you are, maybe we'll do a Musashi thing with you next week, because that's almost 100% next week.
On Audible, I have the book, so I'll listen to it. And yes.
Okay, because we're mostly going to go over we're not going to do the Book of Five Rings, we're going to do the 21... what the fuck are they called? 21 something or others of Musashi. So familiarize yourself with them. A lot of psychiatry embedded in that stuff. And we're going to work magic into it.
The 21 bullshit something. The 21 magical waifus.
I couldn't understand a word of that, but I'm going to say it was probably cool.
I think he was asking what the name of the book was.
Oh, there's no book for it. If you just Google Musashi's 21, it'll probably be the first thing that pops up.
Okay, excellent.
It's like Musashi. I could probably do it right now. Let me see. I could. I'm being lazy because I have a computer. I have the entire universe in my fingertips.
It's that whole ignorance of godhood thing, or willful ignorance. Is you have everything right before you, but you choose to forget
So
sometimes.
I don't know what it is in Japanese, but when you look it up, you just put Musashi 21, and it's Musashi's 21 rules of life or 21 precepts for life. I think there's a Japanese word for it. Dakoto is what it is.
You
The book is called Dakoto, Dokko.
hey, send me a link for whatever you have right now, and I'll pass it his way.
Okay, I could just do it in. I'll put it in blah blah blahs of the voice. I'll put it there
Okay.
if I can find
Train
it.
agrees.
Jeez, writings of the voice. There it is. I'm literally just putting the Google link, so that's got everything you'll need there. So, but you really they're very simple. Like they're just stoic rules. They're just like stoicism.
Yes,
Very
I've heard of
fundamentally.
this.
Yeah. So they're basically just Japanese stoicism, if you will. And
So I'm on my audios.
Oh, he got out hard.
yeah, I lost all that. So, Victorious, I'm not being rude, but I think we're gonna just end it here because it's,
Okay, no offense taken.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
you must
dude.
flog the demons in charge of your audio.
I'm getting with you this weekend, and we're gonna fucking fix this shit. My name ain't Flesh.
Yes, become the enabler of my abuse.
See, why couldn't it always sound that good? That was good just then.
Fucking
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
yeah.
Alright, love you guys. Enjoy the stream. Donate now. Superchats.com/Satan.
Oh my god.
No, oh my Satan. Get
Oh
it
my
right.
Satan, thank you. Oh my gods,
Yeah.
whatever. Anything else is better.
Okay, Eddie. If you guys are on Discord right now, I love when you guys like catch my shit out of context and throw it up there. It's not just mine, but I mean, I love when you guys do this. Eddie grabbed the part where I said that first ritual blew my balls completely off and magic shot out of my butt. I'm glad somebody records when I say shit because I forget I say it, and I'm like, I would never say something so lowbrow and irreverent, would I, Fleshy?
Oh no, absolutely not. I like to
I'm a
make
paragon.
mental lists, and one of them is people who are the least irreverent of all the people I know, and DH Thorne is right at the top of the least irreverent list.
Oh man. So all right, so we got about 40 minutes left. Hopefully Victorious will get that thing he wanted to say so we can read that. If not, it's okay. We can always like put that on for like we can even lead with some of that next week. So I would love his input because I know he's got a big background in psychiatry. I kind of even just want him to be like, was I off my rocker with what I said? Even just he can just start with yay or nay. Was I like completely wrong, or was I somewhat right, or was I totally right? And he wants to add to it. So he can even just preface whatever he's gonna say with that, just so I can, like, my own ego can just be like, I'm an idiot, or I'm awesome, and just be good with it.
Both the recent times that we've had Alex on, they've brought up really good points about, or questions, I should say, about psychology as it relates to magic. I want to get both them on together at some point and just,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I know Victorious has offered, and we were gonna talk about it on some level, whether we should have some kind of addition to the show from time to time, like as a special guest, he'd come on, and we could do. I don't know if it would really be. I don't know what the legality is. I don't know what all that is, but people could call in with spiritual psychology questions, and we'd tag team those things. And I was actually I was going to allow him to do. I was going to actually allow him to. I don't know what I exactly agreed to, but basically do his thing on me during the live stream, so long as he did it. I mean, I trust him. He's obviously accredited, and he's not going to be like, Thorne's a misogynistic piece of poopy shit, and we got to kill him. So I'm sure he's going to be very gentle and fair. And I'm not afraid of that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like fucking see what you can reveal, and I promise you're revealing whatever I let you reveal.
Expose the
So-
shadows. So
Yeah, but I'm sure there's things that I have no control over that I reveal. Just like when I read people, there's body language and subtle signals that you have no control over that I read. So I'm sure he reads stuff that I have no control over. That he'd be like, "Oh, I know what he was saying there. Oh, that's dark triad right there. That's pretty cool." And I look forward to hearing that. So I hear dice rolling.
So hey, right now I'm trying to get in touch with somebody who said they wanted to call in, and they are a first-time caller. I'm trying to get that set up right now, but
Okay, beautiful.
in the intermittum, we were talking about
Actual gaming.
roleplay.
Yes. Yeah. So, I don't know what you want to say about it. Is there something you want to say about it, or you want me to just be my usual domineering prick self?
Well, like I was talking to you about, one thing that I think there might be something to, I want to hear you talk about, you know, the non-dual perspective of being a dungeon master and whatnot.
Oof.
Like, there's things I could probably say about it, but I'm curious to know, creating a universe and creating the whole setting and everyone within it, so, and having it so ingrained within you that you can be all of that for these people to inhabit within it, where you are Joe the barber, you are Meg the fucking goat puncher, everything. No matter where you go, it is all DH Thorne. You are the universe's.
I mean, I don't know if I'm really good at role-playing many characters. I feel like, you know, I can be a little too two-dimensional sometimes with them, but sometimes that makes it work better. But I know what you're saying, and I want to preface this by really talking about imagination, because that's really what you're asking about if you want to know the truth. Imagination, again, there was something I said I would say earlier that I didn't say, and that is what imagination really is, in my opinion. In my non-dual opinion. And I say opinion only because other people will disagree, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So, that's a joke. In my non-dual opinion, there is no such thing as creativity, and people are always going, no, that's not true. I'm so creative. How creative we are. Creativity is everything. Hold on. If you're God, you're created everything. Just relax. Chill out.
Quick interjection. As soon as you're done with your thought, we have our caller lined up.
Oh, cool. All right, so I'll try to make it quick. What I interpret imagination to be in the non-dual sense is not a creative process. It's not even a process where you are taking just ideas that you've heard of before and recobbling them together. Because if you do studies on neurology and mental stuff, you find out that none of us have ever had an original thought in our lives. Every thought you've ever had is, at most, a recombination of ideas you've either had or heard of before. So, in other words, there is nobody who invents a new color. There is nobody who invents a new planet. There's nobody who invents a new kind of alien. All we can do is recombine details from other things to create a new compound idea. That's all you can do.
It's kind of like
now,
they say how after you read the dictionary, every other book is just a remix.
It's just a remix, yeah. That's basically all creativity is. Now, let me take that to one more level. Okay, let's say that that's true, what I just said, and it is, in the scientific sense. No, it really is. You can look it up. It's not. I'm not exaggerating. But let's take that to one more level. You could say, well, the creativity is not the new ideas, it's the cobbling together. That's the creativity. Okay, you call that creativity. What if all you're really doing is tuning into another dimension where that thing you're imagining is real? So what if you're not actually creating a new idea at all? You're actually divining in that moment. So, Flesh Priest, I want you to imagine an alien world right now. Just imagine an alien world.
Okay.
It's probably a bunch of furries and shit, right?
No, actually. But now I'm imagining the werewolf moon.
Okay, so you're on the werewolf moon. You're running around in your loincloth or whatever the hell is going on there. As the Flesh Priest, being chased by all these werewolves.
Okay, yeah.
You trip and fall like in every horror movie, right?
Okay.
And one of those werewolves jumps on your back and teaches you the meaning of magic is in the butt. All right, you're doing great. This is the greatest thing you've ever experienced. What if I were to tell you that somewhere in the multiverse that happened just now? Exactly the way you imagined it.
I want to believe. I want to believe so bad.
So let me impress upon you that if all of this ideation of non-duality is true, and if we can also trust anything that we see, because I'm not an idealist. The idealism in metaphysics is the idea that your brain creates the stuff. I don't think that's happening at all. I think there is awareness, being aware of itself. So there is not an objective reality, but there is a prime materia, if you will. There is a reality. It's just that what you see is what your brain overlays on top of it with experience and ideations. It's the tails and heads of the coin. If you watch my last video that I just did about auras, I explain this really well. So, if we accept that materialism has any truth in it at all, that is to say that at the very least, materialism explains the dream really well. So let's at least give it that. Materialism, its physics, its sciences are within the dream of Maya are accurate. They work and they're good, right? So let's accept that.
Okay.
Right now, science does not know exactly how big the universe is. When they do the tests that are meant to measure how big the universe actually is, the only way they can do that is by triangulating things in space and measuring the curvature of the lines that are coming in a triangular way. If there's a positive curve, that means that the universe is finite. If there's a negative curve, again, the universe is finite. If there's no curve, then the universe is infinite. Wouldn't you know that the number that they come up with basically means they can't tell, because it's either infinite or it's so nearly infinite that the number is absurdly big. In other words, the number is big enough, no matter how you slice it. Follow with me here for a minute.
Okay.
The number is so big that if it's not infinite, it's so big.
It's, in a practical sense, infinite.
It's in a practical sense, but it's not even just that. It's also, there's only so many configurations that matter and energy can be in, mathematically. That is to say, if you were to take my body and measure the exact position and energy of every particle in my body right now, like a snapshot, you could play a lot of games with all those little particles and rearrange them all different kinds of ways and turn me into all different kinds of things, make me out of gold, whatever you want to do. You could take this matter and make it anything you want. And it would be a number that is like so big, possible iterations. It's enormous. Extrapolate that out to the known universe. You could have the known universe in all possible configurations repeat over and over and over again. That's how big it is. And you still wouldn't fill it quite yet. So if the universe is infinite, that means that there are actually infinite literal copies of all of us in all these different possible states right now. That means that there is somewhere out there in the infinite expanse of reality, unless the rules of physics change if you go far enough away, there is literally Flesh Priest being chased on a moon with werewolves trying to rape him in the Magick Center. Right now.
It's consensual.
Okay, consensual. But there's also one where it's not. All of these things are happening. So, are you creating them in your imagination, or are you just tuning into them? How would you know the difference? My argument is this. If you are God, and you're technically omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, all of those things are known to you on some level. So what is imagination except a widening of the aperture, looking in a different direction than you're used to? That's what imagination is to me. You're not actually creating a new idea. You're taking something that probably exists somewhere in the multiverse, tuning into that, and then spitting it out. And if it's not that, there's functionally no different. Like, it's kind of like relativity in science. Time only happens when things happen within it. So if you had a universe where nothing was moving, time would stop existing. In the same way, they match so perfectly that there's functionally no difference between whether you created it or imagined it, or it's actually happening.
Okay.
They're all the same. So my argument is this, again, if you are omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, when I made up that little story, or when you made up that story, when we collaborated on that story, our awareness probably went there and brought it back for our conversation. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Prove me wrong.
Oh, you're at your desk right now. I can see that.
I'm at my desk.
Reality.
In fact, prove me wrong.
Oh. All right. And I don't know if they're going to prove you wrong, but are you ready for this person?
Yes. Hopefully they're not a hater since they're fresh.
Oh, I don't think so. They've been around for a while.
I know they have. I know. I think I recognize the name.
Yeah.
I love Hanuman. Hanuman is an awesome monkey. Bring him in.
Yeah. So they are muted right at the moment. They'll probably be here in just a second, but...
Are we Discorded or Skyped? Okay.
Discord.
Skype. Okay. Yeah. No, they're not muted on my end. They're muted on their end.
Yep. So everybody, please...
Oh, it's somebody else. It's somebody else. I thought you had... unless that's them.
No. This is... that's their username, but this is what they wanted me to introduce.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Please, everybody, make welcome the great and powerful Shaman Hanuman.
Shaman Hanuman.
I probably mispronounced that, but they'll correct me, I'm sure.
Pretty close. I think that's actually right. I hear nothing.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything from their mic. Nothing's coming through.
They might have to activate the correct mic. That might be what it is.
Yep. We'll let
We have dropped the ball again, Fleshy.
it's not on,
you're like
it's not
you're
on
never
our
getting
end.
flogged again. You're never getting flogged again.
We'll let them figure that out for a minute.
Okay.
I'll message
Yeah,
them
just
back.
butt in when you get it working.
Yep.
So, but we're gonna keep going for like another 20 minutes anyway. So, I think that's how long we got. Yeah, about 20 minutes, give or take. So, we could do a brief buy our crap segment actually while we're waiting.
Okay. Fuck yeah.
So, I neglected to plug an ally of mine for a while, Elena, and her store, Limitless Liberations. She's got an awesome selection of new stuff that I should have been plugging this whole time because it's technically stuff that she made in honor of my work. Let me actually go find it real quick, and I'm going to post a picture of it. Let me go get it. Give me 1 second. There we go. So if you go to Limitless Liberation on Etsy, it's literally etsy.com shop Limitless Liberation. She's got some new stuff. In fact, she's got one that if it wasn't so pricey, I would maybe consider it. She's got a Malthus pyramid, which is actually really cool. So she's got a Trinity of Self altar table, which is of course my thing. But she's also got Trinity of Self pendants. She's got a Trinity of Self incense burner. She's got a smaller Trinity of Self charger. But last but not least, somewhere on here, she's actually got the Legion sigil in a triangle that glows. I don't know if she finished. I don't know if she sold all those. I don't see them. She had one before. She was preparing them. But if you go to Limitless Liberations, in fact, I'm going to put the link in. Here we go. Get the link. Open up. Open up. There we go. You know who I realized wasn't here tonight?
Who's that?
Nina.
Oh yeah, I didn't see her.
Very, very strange. So if you guys go there tonight, the pendants are pretty affordable and they're pretty good. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. She hand makes everything, and we have an agreement. So if it's something that's based on my product, I get a percentage of it. But she takes, of course, the lion's share of it. And she's got other stuff that's really awesome. That Malthus pyramid looks really cool. She must be using real gold in there or something because that's very pricey. It's either that or it's really big. But it's all beautiful resin stuff. She doesn't actually do, I forget what the word for it is. Something generators. I can't think of the word for it. It slipped my brain. Yeah, I can't remember it. But anyway, I really can't remember the name of it. Well, anyway, she makes all these really cool ornaments and altar pieces and stuff. So please check it out. She does really good work. Also, if you want to support me more directly, go into my description of this video, and you will see a Linktree link in which there are links to all kinds of stuff, including the books that I have currently available, as well as my website, which is really just a blog. It's a glorified blog. If you go there, you can actually hire me for rituals or consultations and all that kind of stuff. If you want to do to me what Alex just did to me a little while ago, and you want to have a one-on-one where we talk about stuff, that's what that's for. If and it's professionally done, I'm a little bit less weird about it. If you want professional ritual work done, if you feel like you want someone to do it for you, I do them all in big video format. So what I do is I don't send you pictures of my altar, guys. I literally take a video. Sometimes I'll even do it live. I haven't done one live in a while. I don't usually like doing it live unless I really like the person. But I will record the ritual for you live. It's clearly about you. I can't fake any of it. It's literally me doing it for you. I say that because there's a lot of people will fake rituals. They will literally take pictures of their altar from a fake ritual that they've done and just reuse those pictures over and over again. Don't ask me how I know this, but I've known people. I've been around some of them. They literally will tell me, "Oh yeah, well, there's times where I just can't keep up with all the work I get. So I've taken pictures of my altar and I've sent it out to people multiple times." And watch out for that, guys. That's why I'm not... If they do that, make sure that they're the type that will show you the pictures in process where there is some kind of evidence that they're doing it for you in process. Because there's a lot of scammers out there and they really suck. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get... I don't think they're going to get them on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out... I'm trying to figure out with them in the background, but they're on their phone right now, so there's... it's not really my realm. There's only so much I can spitball with that. I do have a...
the Hermit says orgone. That's the word that eluded me. Yes, Hermit. It was orgone. Thank you.
So
she doesn't do orgone because that's like a whole more elaborate... Like, that requires like a different thought process entirely. She's just doing ornaments and stuff. But they have real precious stones in them and stuff, so they're still good.
So I did have a question here from Marion Eisenberg. They asked, does role-playing create tulpas or egregores?
Yes. Yes, it can. But there's a lot that has to do with how much energy you put into things. So, Flesh Priest, you and I definitely have an egregore.
Oh?
Oh, we've absolutely, you, me, and my wife, and everybody's played in that setting. There's an egregore.
I think I can hear them now. Hold on. I'm sorry. Roll with your thing.
What? Oh, you're talking about in that?
Yeah, sorry.
We've created an egregore in our various D&D games. There's actually one character that reoccurs a lot, and we all know him. We know him very clearly. We know what his personality's like.
Oh, fuck that guy.
And we can even
fuck that guy.
We can even talk like him. So we've created a living character in this roleplay setting. It's an egregore. It's alive. And so long as we remember him and work with him occasionally, he'll pop up. We didn't mean to do it, but he's a trope. And he's there. And he's like, whenever I need a character to make a good giggle, this character pops up. And he's based on a real person, in a way. So it does make it extra funny. But, yeah, you can absolutely create... Here's the thing I want to get at about D&D. Is that someone asked me once a while ago, look, I can't do rituals in my house. I got parents, I got this. What can I do? I said, well, can you play Dungeons and Dragons in your house without getting in trouble? Yeah, okay. Well, there's your idols right there. Just take your little figurines. Get your little demon figurine from, they have a figurine for various demons and monsters and stuff. You want one? Use that. There's your idol. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have an altar and all that. Do you have the little tile sets or the little drawings that you can do? Why not create it that way? Why not set up an astral temple? In fact, this is actually a practice that I've meant to get back into. Not get back into, but really work on, was to draw up in one of my books a step-by-step guide on ways you can create an astral temple. And one of them would literally be to create it like you're making a Dungeons & Dragons map for your players. You literally plan it all out on a little grid, make a map as if it's real, and then visualize it and just make it more real all the time you use it. Literally use it in ritual. Put it down on your altar. Visualize that as your astral temple. Put little figurines on it. Role play that shit. Really do it all out. Don't be afraid. Don't think you're playing with toys. Don't think you're being blasphemous. Really think about what you're doing. Childish as it may seem, it actually works. It actually works really well. Because all you're doing is you're just creating a medium. You're using a medium to help your imagination run wild and create visually what you can't see. It's like using a posable model if you're an artist, so that you have something that gives you the proportions right. It's the same idea. Lets your imagination run wild that way. And it's really useful. I mean, you can do so much with it that it's a little bit scary, actually. It's very, very powerful, very, very useful. So any luck with the voice stuff yet, Fleshy?
Yes, right now I'm not sure why, but when I jumped over into a different channel... Oh, yep. Hey, I can hear you now. DH, do you want to jump into this?
Yeah, I'll just jump in.
Yeah, this channel. For whatever reason, I can hear them in here. I don't know why. Something's working now.
It might be a permission issue, but yeah, I'm jumping in.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so now DH can hear you too, and everybody please make welcome Shaman Hunaman. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, close enough. Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Just one of many masks. I always liked Hanuman. He was the one who forgot his divinity, and if you really look, to me, people always thought it was weird. They're like, "Why Hanuman? Like he's not dark enough or something." And I was like,
that motherfucker terrified the demons, bro. That motherfucker, whenever he roared, the demons were like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, I always saw him as like a Loki. And I tried to
a little bit. He's definitely got that trickster quality. Yeah.
Well, because we don't really know everything about, because like he has like endless qualities, and then ultimately underneath all that, he's Shiva, the creator and destroyer of worlds.
Yes, and he tears his chest open and reveals the jewels. The what's they call them? I forget the word for them.
Yeah,
the souls.
And all the other gods are in his heart, and it's like yeah. So I thought that was cool because he basically allows himself to be caught in order to foil the plans, of I always forget his name, Ravana.
Yeah.
Ravana.
Because I love that picture. I think it's Rama and him and Hanuman is like a surfboard. Like because he's using his power to like shoot along the water, and he's like riding on his back. I was like, damn, that's kind of cool. I'm not saying I love like the imagery of Hinduism and all that stuff, but that's one exception. I think it's really badass. Like I think that's a cool character for sure. It might also be because Enslaved Journey to the West, you have that main character that is like the monkey guy. And it's like I picture him as like a human version of Hanuman in a lot of ways. So it's kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean he's Goku. He's the Monkey King.
Yeah.
He's all of that essentially. Journey to the West, that all came from Hanuman, and so there's that too. And it's like it's zany. He's zany. He doesn't take things seriously. That's my favorite part. He's zany.
I mean, if you don't have an element of humor in everything you do, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. I mean, I act really, like, I don't know. I guess I'm a big goofball. I see myself as very serious a lot of time, but
yeah, but it's about the balance. It's about the light and dark. It's about the male, female. It's
absolutely.
It really, and that's the head trip, man. Like, I've always known there was so much more, and I mean. Most of the way you talk about, I, either agree with, or I've entertained, that position before, and like I actually found you a while ago. It's actually interesting. I'll tell you about that another time, though.
Okay.
But no, it's interesting. But I I mean, I have a little bit of a.
It's probably in my former life before I was
I'm
DH
more.
Thorne. Let me guess.
I'm more.
No, I mean that. When I was doing YouTube videos before I was DH Thorne, that might be when you found it.
I'm more like. I don't really have any one ultimate answer for anything. I'm always kind of like looking at all. You know what I mean? Like, I see things from like every angle, and so I've thought, and maybe I'm wrong. But I have thought sometimes that maybe we're in the dream of, what they call source, what they call, what I call the absolute or the God force. So basically, it is us and we are it, but we're like fractals. We're like, so we're at like, and this is what I said gives me anxiety almost. And it's like, well, what's that? Everyone wants to go to 5D, 10D. I want to go to 0D because no one gave me any fucking instructions. And I see how you talk about any of this stuff to anybody. They look at you like you got 3 fucking heads right off the bat, And so it's like, if I'm aware as I am, given my history and my crazy life and what, like just me asking questions and never getting answers from anyone, and never really having anyone to, it's like, okay, if I'm this aware and I'm fucking crazy, then what does that say? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I.
You don't sound crazy to me. I mean, unless you're burning cats on a toaster in the backyard, you don't sound crazy to me. You sound fine.
Well,
yeah.
And I'll also say you kind of have to go a little bit crazy on the other end of things to get there.
Or at the very least, you have to be okay with being crazy, because just like you, like, here's the path as I understand it, and the path has no destination. It just winds until you get tired of it. The path is one of ever-increasing inability to relate to the people that you begin with. And there's plateaus and there's levels. You find your tribe over and over and over again, but you're always going to leave. The thing is awakening is always a lonely experience, because on one hand, it's lonely because you realize you're everything, and you realize that the people you're talking to are you, and it can be a little, it can be a little creepy. It can be a little creepy sometimes when that happens, because I look at my dog and I go, does she know that she's me? I don't think she does. What's the point in talking then,
Like
and then all
those friends.
And then you have a conversation with somebody and all they want to do is talk about stuff that is offensively mundane to someone who is like, and it's not that they're broken or bad. It's just that you don't want to talk about, foosball and all this other. You want to talk about the stuff that you talk about when you're high around a campfire. You know what I mean? That's what you want to talk about. And because that's what animates you. That's what quickens you, because you realize that all of that's great. But you know what? To give some credit to those people, in a way they're more enlightened than us, in a way. If only they could let go of the other stuff, because their ability to enjoy those simple things is not, it's a beautiful thing. Like I've actually gotten to the point where, since I've lost weight, I've gotten more comfortable out in the heat, where it used to be if it was 82 degrees, I'd be sweating my freaking ass off and I was miserable. Now it's like 92 and I'm like, shorts and a t-shirt, I feel good. Like, what's funny? Like, it's a total, I'm going off on a tangent, but like I'll be talking to like EA and he loves being like, where he is, it's hot as hell, and he loves it, and he'll be sitting there in like real tight shorts and stuff, and like in a bathing suit, or like we'll be Skyping and stuff. I'm like, ew, that just seems so like I couldn't live like. It's like, no, I love it when it's this hot. It's like so freeing. I don't feel like I need to wear all this. That was great. And I'm like, I never understood that till now that I'm getting in shape and I'm less ashamed of myself. So what I'm getting at is a lot of that discomfort we feel when dealing with those people, it's a limitation of our own. It's not theirs. Like we think that they're limited, and we look at them and go, "Oh, I wish that they had higher brow thoughts." Really, it's your own limitation that's offending you. That's what offends you about them, is because a part of you realizes that you're being unfair. It's a limitation of your own that you're upset about. You wish you could enjoy the talk of Shea Stadium and hot dogs. You know what I mean? Like they do. So, and my mouth just watered because I'm thinking of like a nice big old, like a hot dog from a baseball stadium. So there's so many layers here, my friend. And I know you see a lot of them, like you were talking the other day and when we were watching the movie. There's so many layers going on. And they're really just one layer, but they seem like so many different layers. And we spend so much time, even now.
And then really everything still. Okay, I remember I was tripping at this time, okay? And I did it mostly seriously. I certainly didn't know what I was getting into, in the sense of that I was going to face myself, because everyone said, you're just going to see things, and that's it, you know?
And that's a step I have yet to take, and it's one I plan on taking at some point.
Oh, man. I did everything backwards. Yeah.
I think so. I do believe that the proper order of events is to have the teaching and then do the trip.
Well, see, I was initiated when I was like 9 years old, and I didn't actually have any clue what was going on. And thinking back on that, I don't actually know what went on, and I actually realized I don't have many memories from then. And
well, you know, there's a lot of cultures.
But
a lot of cultures that people look down on that for this, but there's something to it, that you got to be a certain age before you're introduced to the mysteries, like for real. So if you go into Hinduism, there is this idea that until you're in your 30s, you're meant for the first 30 years or so of your life, you're meant to be establishing a household and all of the mundane things in your life, and then you begin to open up the other doors. Same thing like in Judaism. Like, you don't really get into like if you're a Hasidic Jew or whatever, you don't get into the deep Kabbalah until you are in your 30s. You're not allowed. You're not permitted. And there's a reason for it. I think it's because when you're young, you're impressionable, and you're more inclined to just absorb. People tell you that you're God, you absorb it, and it's tough to... I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. Alex is an obvious exception. I was an exception. But most people, they're just too absorbent. You know, they just absorb the knowledge, and they don't live it.
You'll recite it without understanding it.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. How many other cultures experience Christian stuff and love it? Meanwhile, we hate it. And how many people in that culture live in a beautiful, I don't know, for argument's sake, a Buddhist or Indian setting where all the things that we talk about are what they are raised with, quite literally, but they hate it and they convert to Christianity the minute they get here or something. Things are mundane to them. It's rote. It's boring. It's the same old, you know, and that's a trap, but it is a real one. And so yeah, I mean that's something to think about too.
I have a lot of animist leanings too, and what I was saying though is during this experience, I got to a point where I was breaking everything down so small, you know, using the knife of the intellect. And it got to a point to where it's like, none of this is real. There is no reality at all. And once I realized there was no reality at all, you know, it was like, okay, so really all of this is ideas. All of this is terms. All of this is descriptions. But really the only thing that exists is our idea of that description. That description itself doesn't actually have any life. We are pulling energy into it, and so therefore now everyone has agreed upon things. And then when I realized that, I did a full circle and was like, oh shoot, all that crazy stuff that people used to say about, you know, this person or that person and this group or that group, and it's like, okay, so a lot of that was bullshit, but, you know, there's something here, and it's like, okay, so they basically have found a way to put people into their rituals in order to enact what they desire without them knowing it, and then just, you know, basically them, you know, they're oblivious to it, and so they're literally creating a false reality. This whole society is nothing more than a false reality. I
would disagree on one level. There is no such thing as a false reality when they're all false. Well, like if they're all equally unreal, then the one that you're talking about is actually just one you don't have a preference for. You know, if and that's really what it boils down to. Preference is valid. I think that divinity is allowed preference. You know, that's not necessarily like it's not. I prefer to live in an experience where I have experiences. That's not good or evil. It's just what divinity prefers.
No, right? No, I don't mean to put any moral, or I mean, I do have certain opinions. You know, those are opinions. about certain things, but it's not that. It's more that it could easily be like it's almost like it's too easy. Like if everyone always talks about like this great awakening and all this, and what are we
Mm-hmm.
going to do? And it's like it's as simple as realizing it has no validity and just stopping.
None of it,
That's
not
it.
even the awakening. But here's the thing: not even the awakening has validity. It's
Right.
all a game. It's all a game.
Right.
None of it is real. So that means, let's say you're in a political spectrum like mine. You go, I don't want the Great Reset. I want the Great Awakening. Right? It's the immovable object and the rock that can't be moved. Right? I mean, the immovable object and the unstoppable force coming together. Which is
Right.
going to win? And realistically, it doesn't work that way. The powers that be, the hidden masters who know what we know, because they do know what we know.
Of course.
They might know it in a different way. They might use different techniques. Maybe they know more. Maybe they don't know less in some ways. But they know enough about what's really going on. They have enough of an awakening. They know that they're God on some level. Even if it's just egoistically, they think their ego's God. They know enough that they also know that what they can convince everyone to believe becomes reality.
Right.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And those of us who are able to just kind of pare that away, and Eddie's probably, if he's still here, he's probably like ripping his shirt off right now and going, woo, because I'm basically talking, Mage the Ascension type stuff. There are people who realize their power, and there's people who don't. And the people who don't are the ones who are asleep, and they live in that, as you call it, false reality. But so do we. We live in also a false reality. It's just that we have one that we wield, whereas they are wielded by it. They're asleep, and so they follow the track. And so do we, though. Like, that's the ultimate takeaway I've had, is to stop seeing reality as a thing you can bend, twist, and shape, and realize that what you're changing is which reality you're in, which is all unreal. But which one are you going to be in? It's like changing clothes. Rather than me altering this shirt so it's white, I'll just go get a white shirt and put that on. That's what's happening. So that's part of the lie. That's part of how they trick you into being powerless. Because, we all love the movie The Matrix, right? Everybody loves that movie. And everybody knows that scene with the little boy and the spoon. And it's a great big meme where Neo says, there is no spoon, as he goes this. And most people completely lose the hidden, deepest meaning of that scene. The hidden, deepest meaning of that scene is exactly what I'm telling you right now. I'm literally telling you there is no spoon. The idea that you can bend a spoon is silly. He doesn't just mean with his mind, by the way. When the little boy is saying, you can't bend a spoon, that's absurd. He doesn't just mean with your mind. Even if that's what he's saying, that's not what he means. He means you literally can't bend a spoon. You can't do that. The spoon exists in all of its different configurations. So there is no bending. There's nothing to be bent. It doesn't exist in the first place to be bent. It is you create it out of the ideation of it in the experience of yourself in which it exists.
Yeah, that's
So
why he said it's you that bends.
It's
When
you that must
realize
bend.
It's you.
And
It's perspective. Yeah.
And then the one group of people thinks that means that in order to bend a spoon, you have to bend. No. In order to bend the spoon, you have to recognize you can't bend the spoon, and you're not even bending. Like, the thing that's bending is the universe, is the language failing, reinsert brain. The thing that's bending is not the spoon, and it's not even you, as in like that it will bend. It is that you are shifting where you are in the potentiality that is. So some universe somewhere there's a bent spoon. You go to that universe and see a bent spoon. You didn't bend the spoon. You didn't bend yourself. You bent your course. You bent your trajectory so that you went to that outcome rather than the one that you were starting in. That is the nature of all of this stuff, including your everyday life. Everything you're doing right now is, imagine, every moment there's an infinite number of possibilities shooting out in front of you that you could go to, and your consciousness picks one. And it's just, from moment to moment, the fleshy that I knew a second ago is not the fleshy that I knew a second ago. You know what I mean? It's always a new fleshy. Always. My wife is not the same person I married. even science would say this, because the atoms and molecules in her body, we've been married for going on 14 years, I guess. So pretty much except for the enamel in her teeth, pretty much every atom and molecule in her body has pretty much been exchanged now at this point. So she's not even the same stuff that she was when I married her. I'm not the same stuff. None of this is. So what is it that we are?
Renew their vows?
Are you familiar with quantum gravity?
I mean, to a point. In what way?
Well, when you factor that into what we're talking about, there's something called emergence theory. And what that basically says is that this reality is actually a reflection of a higher reality. It's like a bunch of quasi crystals that are, 8-dimensional, but we only actually perceive them from the fourth. So, like I said, I have a lot of animist leanings, and I believe that everything does indeed, have consciousness in the truest sense of the word. Like, it's almost like there is nothing but consciousness. Everything else is
well, that's exactly right. Like I was saying to Alex, if awareness is all there is, everything is awareness, and that's the only thing you can be aware of. So that produces consciousness, and consciousness is everything. So that's it. Like, end of story. But then everything else explodes like the Big Bang happens. It's an explosion of conceptual ideation. It is, and that's what it is. And the more stuff that we imagine, the bigger it gets. Like, quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why, like, knowing that, what I was saying is, in knowing that, it's just a matter of us creating our own, reality, or letting someone else do it for us. It's that simple. So everyone freaking out about all this stuff has got the complete wrong idea. In fact, it very well could be part of the awakening process, whatever that even is.
Look, it's got to be a good story, otherwise what's the point?
Maybe it had to be,
yes,
but then you're just like, oh my god, there's nothing that, like, I am. So it's like,
nobody said the awakening was going to be milk and honey, guys. I got to tell you, awakening could mean we all die and realize we're God. Okay, and it could be a horrible death. It doesn't have to be some kind of beautiful, love and light, love and... No, we might all go into a meat grinder, literally, and go out the other end and go, oh shit, none of this mattered. I'm awake though. Cool. Like, that's fine. So, like, people have to get this ideation that awakening is somehow this beautiful, positive trip. It's really just a revelation, is all it is. It's if anything, you let go of the necessity for good at all. And that's part of the journey. But again, this idea of creating your own reality. I like the analogy of, did you see Endgame, or I should say Infinity War, the Avengers Infinity War? Hopefully you did. I don't have to tell you the whole story, but I'm sure. Oh crap! All right, crap! I don't want to spoil it on you either now. So for people who have seen it, hopefully you're fine. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. Go watch it. But towards the end of Infinity War, there's a part where they're trying to figure out how to beat Thanos. And Doctor Strange, of course, has the power of time. He can go backwards and forwards in time and see anything he wants. He can also see all the different timelines that are possible. And so he goes in meditation for hours trying to find a timeline where they can beat Thanos, and there's only one. Out of all the infinite possibilities, there's only one that they can defeat Thanos. And the only way to do it is really horrible. It really sucks. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's literally like the unthinkable. So take that for how you will. Take that for how you will. I will say this much. Months and months and months ago, when all hell was popping off, and we all basically had the wool pulled off our eyes, at least those of us who could possibly be aware that weren't already. I already was, but even that, like I could see, but someone pulled the rest of the gauze off. Not even the rest of it, just another big chunk. Like, I totally knew what was going to happen and what was going on, but I had no idea to the degree. Like, I had no idea it was going to be that obvious and surreal to see it happen. Like, it was totally a revelation to me to see everything happen in 2020.
Yeah,
and
there's
even though I knew it all
anymore, like absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's like they're not even hiding any of it anymore. It's like right in your face what they're doing. So I'm sitting here looking at this, And when this started to happen, I was listening to David Icke, who I don't agree with everything he says by any stretch, but he was invoking some rather non-dual stuff. And I heard like the ideation of Lucifer hit my brain, and I heard that familiar syrupy sweet Lucifer voice saying he's also a chosen of Lucifer, because all he does all day long is bang the drum for freedom in every way, shape, and form, and he's just constantly railing against authority. I'm like, yep, that's a chosen of Lucifer, all right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Whether he knows it or not, he'd probably disagree. But
yeah. Now, see, that's one thing. Actually, I'm so glad you said that.
Well, let me finish this thought, and then I'll let you go. Because so in that moment, I had this surge of spiritual energy, if you will, and I had this vision of me rising up into this astral space surrounded by angels and demons and monsters and gods, and there was this one horrible nightmarish inky black, syrupy black, dark, like smog monster dragon thing that was the size of like the moon sitting on the earth, and all of these spiritual forces were aligned against it, including all these mortal forces down below, and it had its own army. And I said to myself, I will live to see this thing done. I will live to see this thing destroyed. I will go to that universe where this thing dies. That is where I'm going, and you're all coming with me. And I remember I, like, in this vision, led a charge, and we shot towards it, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it filled up my entire vision, and I shot through it. And I remember like flying through it, coming out the other side, exploding through it, seeing that we had pierced its heart and killed it. And I felt like I went through a tunnel to another universe where I was going to see this monster die. I didn't name what the monster was. In my mind at the time, I thought I meant the Great Reset monster. And I realized that monster may be ignorance, is what I might have pierced. And I would go to a universe where ignorance would be destroyed. And what does that mean, though? What does that mean? And I'm still waiting to find out. But the next couple of days, I had that working with Yog-Sothoth, and I had that complete... I felt like I bounced to another universe, and I was completely fucked up for like a whole day, where I was just like reintegrating into a new world. Everything felt different. It felt like somebody took me out of my body and put me in backwards, is what it felt like. I don't know how else to explain it. So go ahead with what you were going to say. That's the end of my story, so you can have the floor for a minute.
Okay, two things now. Okay, one, are you familiar with this idea of Universe B with like Kenneth Grant and all that?
No, but I can extrapolate maybe what you mean, but go ahead.
Okay, not as important. The other thing is basically I've been practicing, I've been role-playing, I have total aphantasia, I don't dream, I can't even close my eyes right now and like picture a sunset. Now, I can sometimes feel it, if you get what I'm saying. I have very strong empathy, and I have very strong senses. Like, I could do, for instance, a incantation to Lilith, and I'll feel wind around me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no way, that's not, it happens. And then now it's just like, you know what? It is. I know. In fact, I'm calling her because she asked me to come, and I'm just like sitting there, and I was just like, whoa. And that's why this topic was so interesting to me, because this was like the one thing that I intuited that I never read anywhere. I never was, I was never initiated into anything. I just fucking had an endless desire to know whatever it was I was, to know. And, I always knew that it was real. I mean, I knew that I wasn't, in situations that I was when I was younger, where I had people literally telling me, hey, a spirit wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then they go out for like 6 hours and start talking about all this crazy. And I'm just like, what? And it was almost like they knew that I couldn't see them. So they're like, hey. And so, like, I'm having all these, like, paranormal, basically, but at the most subtle level, events, and that's what actually dragged me deeper and deeper into it, and it's like, so I was doing the role play, and, like, I was getting frustrated, because I'm like, how am I supposed to write this down? Because it was just like, it was coming so quick, and I was just like, damn, how am I, and it's just... The only thing is, like, I noticed it, like, on these more intense, like just straight off the bat. My number one goal in all of this is my own self expansion. And what I made that is by, like, low magic to me is basically not even on the table. You know, maybe I'm not
I
saying
barely
I'll
play with
never
it. It's
use
not really
it.
that.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that I feel and I've felt for a long time that there is a lot that is suppressed, and there some of it's from trauma or whatever, okay, within me. And it's almost like, they talk about blockages, and I don't, like, say, oh, I'm blocked so I can't, but it's just like I said, my life itself has been a trip. That's another conversation. Okay, that's the best way I can put it. Like, things that have happened, they don't make sense. My parents don't make sense.
I mean,
a lot of things don't make sense.
The whole thing is a trip, man. I mean, like,
Yeah,
think of it this way. You're still in the Garden of Eden, and you ate the apple, and you're tripping balls right now. Like,
I actually, oh my God, I said exactly that to someone one day, dude.
Yeah.
When I was tripping, I said the Garden of Eden is the mind. I said the apple is psychedelics, because shamanism is the oldest religion in the world, and it came from psychedelics. And then you get into, like, Graham Hancock and these other people. That's a whole other thing.
Well, actually, let's invert that a little bit, because the older, if I'm to believe this Mark Booth guy, and I'm inclined to.
That's
the real meaning. If you haven't read it,
I'm reading it too, man.
You're reading it too. Okay, so one of the badass things that he revealed in there, which I agree with, is the symbolism of the tree in the Garden of Eden is completely wrong in how we use it in Christianity, and even as it really was the apple. Really, all it was. It's actually ignorance. They call it the knowledge of good and evil. What that actually means, it's like a play on words, like most spiritual things are when they're occulted in plain sight. Like, this way they can talk about them, and most people think it means what it sounds like, but it's actually inverted. You have to invert spiritual conundrums. That's the only way to get to the truth. You have to reverse something in the question, comment, or riddle. It has to be inverted to understand it. The inversion is this. It sounds like, to the average Christian mind, that the tree of knowledge of good and evil meant that knowledge is evil because it lets you do this, that, and 6 other things, and so we have to all be faith-based and just be total ignorant fools and such. No, what it really was referring to was in the allegory of the Garden of Eden, because it's not a literal thing, but in the allegory of the Garden of Eden, when mankind tasted the fruit of the tree of good and evil, what it actually meant was that we suddenly became ignorant in the sense that we started to believe in separation. So before the eating of the apple, we didn't see a distinction between good and evil at all. They were just a thing you did. It was the law of nature, essentially. The law of nature and the law of man were the same. And that is actually the higher state. Like, that is actually the divine state. God doesn't give a crap about the murderer or the victim. They're all equal to that being. They're like, when a murderer is murdering somebody and they're staring in the eyes of a victim when they're doing it, that's God staring at itself doing it. It's wonderful to God. That's awesome. But to us, as embodied fleshy beings, we've eaten of that apple of good and evil, in which we distinguish the one from the other and separate them away from each other. That is what the apple really represents, is the ignorance. Now, there's even more there. I don't know how far you got in the book, but I love this analogy that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is actually also a way to remind us of the evolution of us as a spiritual being into existence, in that it's also synonymous with Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It is so Saturday is the earth. It's the firmament, it's the hardness, it's the borders, it's literally the rocks and the soil. Sunday is the animus, the original animus, which is vegetative. It is without any intellect, mind, or nervous system. It is when human being was a vegetable. Then Monday is when the mind takes over, the inner mind, the neurology takes over, and it's represented by the serpent wrapped around that tree. So you have the earth, the tree, and the serpent. The serpent represents the intellectual mind, the capacity for thought in that way. And all of those symbols are really powerful. Again, I love this book. Read through the whole thing. I'm about a third of the way through. I'm taking my sweet time with it because I love practice. I would take notes like crazy in it because it gives me stuff to write about. Because so much of it is stuff that I thought but didn't think that way. It's like another one of those key books. Like it's one of those key lessons in my life that I'm going to be using a lot of that to establish other things, because I trust that this author, some of this is red herring, but if you go look up stuff, it's based on the real stuff. So it's good stuff. And I love it for that. And I picked up his other 2 books, so I'm planning on reading them all at some point. Luckily I got my Kindle Fire so he can read to me, because I hate reading, I fall asleep. But yeah. I think I put him to sleep.
So that no. I'm just
Processing.
I'm just
Processing. Please wait.
Uh,
The throbber's going around.
no, I was just saying, like, I really want to take this further, and almost 90% of what you read, it's always talking about like these detailed visualizations, and it's like, okay, to a certain extent, I can do this, and especially when you get into more, the darker, ones, they're just like, well, be careful with, this path working, because, you never know what could happen, and it's like, well, I can't fucking see, so how,
So here's the thing: being able to see is useful and important. There's no question about it. It is not the end all be all. Do you think a blind person who's never had sight can't do magic?
No, but when they say the cliff off has no street signs, and there's no path that's actually there, it's just the a causal or whatever, which I'm not sure about all that, but yeah, I mean that's essentially what they say.
So
it's the a
I would
causal.
let go. I would let go of the attachment to visual. If you cannot do it,
I want to.
It's
Yeah,
not necessary.
No.
I would let go of it, and I would instead. Do you need to visualize something to know it's there? No, you don't. I have a little bit of aphantasia as well. It's probably not as pronounced
for
as yours.
me. It's almost the opposite, man. It's like, because I know it's real, it's like, okay, so how do I unlock what I know is there? Like, that's how I feel. It's like, all right, so how far can I take this? How far should I take this? And part of me is like that crazy, mad, scientist, and like, let's go. Like, come on. Like,
I mean, it's really just an attachment to one sense, is really it is. You're really just attached to the one sense of seeing, because as human beings, so much of our world is based on what we see. Like, our sense of smell and hearing is inferior to almost every other animal. So what we see is our prime sense in our human. Actually, your sense of smell actually still has more connections to your memory and stuff. It's actually very useful, but no, how you see is the prime sense of human survival. Like, everything that you do is, your other senses are just there to support your sense of sight. That's really it. That's why blindness is one of the hardest ones to deal with. Now, interestingly, of course, when someone is blind, their other senses develop to take over, almost as if like a superpower. It's pretty amazing. But again, so because of that, we call it the third eye, thinking it means that we have to see the imaginary world. When in reality, what we see is still just the illusionary drapery we put on it. It's not really that big a deal. And I know that from experience, because I can visualize, but I visualize, like, if I was putting a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 3. Like, I struggle with it, and I can't hold thoughts for long visually. So when I do something, the exception would be if I've seen it before, I can hold it for a little bit longer. But if it's something I'm imagining that I've never seen, I just can't do it. I can blink it for a second, and it's usually based on something I've seen, and then I play with it. Like, I was doing this visualization meditation today, and this is, we're gonna have you imagine some stuff, and I'm like, well, here we go. I'm gonna fail it right away. Okay, imagine your kitchen, and immediately I saw my kitchen. I'm like, okay, this is good. I can see my kitchen for a second, and I see it, and it's fading, and then it's like, now visualize a cutting board on your table. Like, bang, I see a cutting board, but all I saw was a cutting board. Like, I didn't really see my kitchen anymore. Now see a lemon. I'm like, okay, there's a lemon. And I could see it, and I could feel it, and I could smell it, but I couldn't quite hold the vision of it for long, because it kept morphing and changing into other lemons, like different kinds of lemons, because it was just, they didn't specify a lemon that I saw before. And all of these little things I could hold for a split second, but I couldn't hold them for long enough. And I'm finding that, especially with this new ritual that I've concocted, that's kind of like my answer to some other rituals from some other systems that's going to be in my new work. Visualization's important. but none of it is so pronounced that you have to do it for an extended period. So I don't know what I'm saying here, except that I've tried it. And like, let's say you're doing the lesser banishing of the pentagram and you got to visualize the pentagram. If I don't draw that with my hand and get the trails in space from my hand moving, I have a hard time seeing it for long. Like, I really have to have that there. And then I have to go and do it. And I see it like the trails from my moving hand. And then that stays in my brain long enough that I can kind of see it. And some people will say, oh, you're never going to be as good at magic because you can't visualize. I totally disagree. How does a blind person do magic that was born without sight?
So
I don't think
that's why
I don't think that's true.
Because I had a feeling you would see that, and most people, would definitely disagree with that, and that's what I'm saying. So like, the only reason I care is because I'm trying to go deeper in this, and some of these rituals are particular. I know you can do what you want to some degree, but some of these are, with all the correspondences and all of that, and the as above so below that's going on, they are a little bit more technical and precise. And so it's like, okay, if there's a way to bypass this, then I can do the same thing. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out, is like, there's got to be like another back door somewhere, because like I said, I can feel the energy, and if I do an incantation and all that, like, it's like, I know you're here, and I'll start remembering things about the deity that I'm calling out of nowhere. Like, or more like things that I wouldn't have known 2 minutes ago, and all of a sudden it's just
the ideations start hitting you, and you start feeling like, I wouldn't be thinking this if you weren't here. I totally get that, because I know what that's like. And then for me, usually what follows soon after that is a big chills goes up and down my spine, like ridiculous. And that's how I know, like, that's the touch of the spirit, if you will. How much of that is psychosomatic, I don't really care. All I know is that that's a sign that take it seriously at this moment. So anyway, dude, I'm going to go because my throat's dying from talking too much with a little bit of a head cold.
I feel you.
But feel free to call in anytime, dude. You're very, very wise, too.
Fuck yeah.
You're another person who gets it. So I look forward to having you back on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, bro. Like, I found your book a while ago, and I don't know, like, it was actually through a synchronicity connected with Lilith. So that's another. That's why I said it's an interesting story.
Lilith is badass. Like, I didn't think I'd like her as much as I ended up liking her, and I haven't worked with her a little bit in a while. But
with her, like, not to be like the spirit,
like in the perv way.
But no. I mean, like, just the fact of everything she represents, and the fact that she was blamed for absolutely everything. It's kind of like Lucifer, one mistranslation in the book,
and then the rest is history.
And then all of a sudden she's the queen of demons and he's the emperor of hell. Yeah.
And again, these are all just stories and allegories and metaphors. At the end of the day, they live through those. Like, your consciousness, the divine consciousness, does live through them. There's no question that they are self-aware on some level. It's obviously an alien level compared to what we're used to, but they're living stories. I mean, that's like, if I can be flat honest, like as if I'm a skeptic, they're stories, but they're alive and they are conscious, and they do have control over themselves on some level. So they're not theistic entities. But they are absolutely spiritually real. They're just, stop pretending that they created the world, right? Stop that game. Realize that they're super egregores, and really, from my understanding, the things I'm learning is that, and this is where I'm going to cut it off because otherwise I'll talk for hours. I'm learning that all of these gods are based in some way, on some level, somewhere in time, on a living human being that was a king or a queen of an ancient civilization and was deified and associated with the planetary energies.
The 18 kings of the old gods. There was a guy who was a conspiracy theorist and a royal, or at least he claimed to be part of. I think it was the De Vere family, and he said that the old gods were Atlantean kings. But I
totally agree with that. I never heard that before, but that's actually, I might as well have said it, because I've said that basically before. So we may have heard from the same ghost.
I agree with everything you said, because it's exactly what I wanted to hear.
It's exactly what I've said before, and I want to hear it. No, it's true, and I don't know. I didn't get that from anybody. I got it from spiritual work, and I'm working with spirits. When I asked who King Paimon, when I asked him, who are you? He took me to Atlantis, basically, and I later discovered in my searches, because I saw him as a king of Atlantis. I go, well, I don't know anything about Atlantis. Let me look this up. And of course, there was 10 kings of Atlantis. One of them was Aemon. I'm like, well, okay, that's a little too close. That's a little too on the nose, you know. And I'm like, oh shit, does that mean Aemon, Paimon? That's kind of a similar sound. Like I could see that morphing after 10,000 years into Paimon, right? So maybe, and maybe not. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. But what it did do is it made me start looking into Atlantean stuff, and I recognized that we call it Atlantis. It probably had a different name than that.
Right.
There's a lot of myth associated, but it was absolutely an ancient civilization, in my opinion. Until it's kind of like you can't prove a negative, but until I see proof that it didn't exist, I believe it did. I'm convinced it did. I'm convinced the powers that be know about it. I'm convinced that all of these things are lost to time. Sumeria was actually maybe the first civilization of the survivors of the localized flood. Instead of saying it was a world flood, it was a localized flood, and they washed up in the Mediterranean and the river valley, and they were just one of that in Egypt were like 2 colonies that survived that flood, and they still had a memory of that history. But of course, they were wiped back to the Stone Age for a while, and it took them a while to get back. By the time they did, they didn't even know where it came from anymore. They just had the myth, you know, Gilgamesh and the flood and the Abkalu and the Anunnaki, basically. All of that. The Anunnaki were 7 of those original 10 kings, right? Maybe more. Maybe there was more than 10 kings, but the original kings of Atlantis, there were 7 of them, 7 or 10. And not for nothing, there was queens too, and we see all over the place the same symbolism over and over and over and over. I don't think the Anunnaki were aliens, by the way. Anybody who thinks that, I don't think that they were aliens. I think that ancient aliens thing was inserted into our collective conscious so that we'd be thrown off the scent of the truth, because if we realized any one of us could be a living god at any moment if we just wake up to it, they couldn't control us the way they do. Think they do.
Well, think of the background. You know, the part they're not talking about. You know, they're implying a lot of things. One, they're implying that it's all technology, and that there's no way that it could ever be something more than that.
Yep.
They're also
they don't want you to ever
it's
see
something that we have to gain, something we have to work up to. We're not there yet. They're guiding us stupid humans, because you know we're not smart enough. And what they're gonna show us is how we can build more weapons to destroy each other even better than we're already doing. Bravo. And you know, it builds into the materialism, which is total BS on so many levels.
That's the thing. Well, materialism must be balanced with spiritualism. You can't say no to one without saying no to the other. They're opposite sides of the same coin. But yes, the more you focus only on the one, that's the delusion. If you believe only in this, then you're missing the whole show. If you believe only in the astral, again, I argue you're missing the whole show. You've got to be in the middle. So that's hard to do, though. Like, I feel like, I must be in the middle because I know that. No, I'm still like 80-20 material most of the time of my life. Like, I go 60-40 when I'm really deep in trance or something, and I really feel like I see an astral overlay to things for brief moments. I feel like I'm touching it. Even that's not it. You know, like, that's getting there. So, but I did have an experience once in my life where I had a complete out-of-body pullback of non-dual awareness of everything. That's what I was getting at with Alex earlier. I totally had that experience, and I got to the point where I was like up on the border of space, aware of everything, and then I was like, I'm not ready for this. I feel like I'm not done being D.H. Thorne yet. I don't know yet. I mean, I'm fine with it, but will I come back? Will I want to come back? And then it was almost like I gave the wrong answer, but it wasn't like I was offending anything. It was just like, oh, that's cool. You can go back now. And I was me again. And I was crying like a little baby when that happened. So I can't say that, you know, this is real anymore. Like, just like you said, this is real as far as it goes, but it's not real. This is, you know, I still get out of the way of an oncoming train, but I don't fear it.
The 13th floor or Dark City.
I'm familiar with those.
Vanilla Sky, they all kind of touch on that a little bit.
Matrix, all of them. They're all there to tell you something. Because here's the thing, the Hidden Masters, it's not that they don't want anyone to know. It's that they kind of like in the Kabbalion where it says pearls before swine.
Yes.
They don't believe that the average person is evolved enough to handle knowing this or will even see it. So they're not afraid to expose some of it. They're not afraid for it to get out because they couldn't hide it forever. They knew that. When civilization was young, they could hide it with death and massacres and shit. But now, especially since the Eastern world, because remember, the Hidden Masters lost control for a while. They really did. And the Eastern world continued with its progress, and they revealed a lot of it if you could read Sanskrit. And if you were in the higher upper classes, the Brahmin class, you could learn about it. And you had a chance to move on, and that's how they kept order, was that only the people in the upper classes were really afforded the chance to ascend. And it's like that in every culture. However, that teaching made its way to the West. And people now realize that that's the original teaching of the mystery schools too. It's just different language, different symbolism, but it's the same ultimate meaning. You die and are reborn as God while alive, and then you leave the cycle of suffering in some way, or you leave the cycle of mortality. That's what every one of these cultures is telling you inside its own rhetoric. And so they know they can't hide it anymore. And it's also one of those things where the revelation of the method is an important. I think we talked about this the other day. The revelation of the method is important because they realize that if everything's divine, if everything's God, including them, then if God is okay with them acting like God on earth and being king, then God will allow it. But if God isn't okay with that, then God will stop them. So in order for that to work, they've got to reveal that what they're doing to the masses at any given moment. They have to tell you, they have to let it slip that what they're going to do. Because if God doesn't want it to happen, they will stop it. If not, and it's that simple. It's like divine providence, the eye of providence, divine providence. It must be revealed. It's also like a way to abuse people, really, too. That's also part of it. So the hidden masters, the one that really are behind most of the intrigue in the world and everything that we're talking about as like conspiracy theory stuff, I've seen in astral visions, and I've seen other presences. I've seen other things watching me, watching them. And if it wasn't for certain other divine entities guarding me, I'd be found out and I'd be cornered somehow. I know I would. So that doesn't mean I'd be destroyed. I don't know what it means. I know people in some secret societies that are like, no, it's a priority. I want to bring you in at some point.
Sure,
and I'm like, I don't know, like how I feel about that. Like, what would I do? And it's not a morality issue. It's just would I be content to know it all and be maybe rich or whatever that would mean to me, but not be allowed to talk about it ever again? I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I don't know how I feel. But then on the other hand, what if the reward is worth that? What if knowing the truth? And what would I feel? Would I suddenly be okay with what they're planning on doing? And I got to be honest with you guys, as much as I am selfishly opposed to it, there's a part of me that completely understands what they're doing and why. And it's like the Thanos meme. I don't necessarily, I kind of understand, you know what I mean? Like, I don't blame you for doing what I see you guys doing. It's like humanity's overpopulated and we're ill, there's a lot of problems and we can't just keep populating the earth like rabbits. It's not even that I'm falling for like their ecology stuff. It's that it's just pretty obvious. It's common sense that humanity's sick because we're overpopulated and we're too easily, there's that study, Mousetopia or Rattopia, where they showed what happened to rats in a perfect society where there was nothing to kill them. They had plenty of food and they ended up dying off anyway because it was something horrible. Watch it,
Yeah, it's like when a hunter kills a sick animal.
Yeah. So I don't believe that, like the Alex Jones version of everything, I don't believe.
Oh,
I really
no,
don't.
Not at all.
But he's telling enough of the truth that it's in the direction of the truth. It's in the right direction. That I do believe that the Georgia Guidestones are probably exactly what he says they are to some degree. I also believe that he didn't break into Bohemian Grove. I think he's a member. I think he's literally a member, and that's how he got in. It's like you got to add another layer of conspiracy there a little bit. So my point is that he's pushing people to be paranoid of this so that they fight against it because that's part of the process.
I always liked Michael Tsarian.
I never heard of him.
Really?
No, I never heard of him.
Yeah, he's the only one I knew who actually took psychology and conspiracy and brought them together and explained, look, what if the moral truth what if the divine truth was that actually we have no reason at all, and no right even to wave placards and demand change and all of this. What if they are completely lawfully able by Geist, by the divine, okay, that we can't name,
to call us all in the grand scheme of things, and to be our shepherds. Yeah.
And it's like, Vern Howard said, man can accept, God becoming man,
But can't accept the other way around.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. Yeah, no, that's a brilliant statement, because that's actually the meaning of my next book. I don't know what I'm going to title it yet, but I feel like titling it something like The Greatest Blasphemy or something like that, because it's going to be all about your divinity. But, that's the thing. That's why I sit here thinking to myself, the more I struggle against this, the more I realize that maybe that's not right. Like, I think of it like my dog, at her level of understanding, probably resents a lot of the things that I do for her own good. And if she could organize, if she had the brain and she could organize the other animals in the house and stuff, they'd protest me and be like, no, don't take my food bowl away when I'm, give me a treat. I don't get enough treats all day, or whatever their little selfish desires are. But I've got to do these things or else she'll be unhealthy and sick. And I had to get her sterilized so that she doesn't, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
That's how they see us all. And that's how they see us all. It's just that, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I'll say that I'm starting to realize that the people we think they are, like we look at, the Bidens and the Gates and even the Rothschilds and all them and Rockefellers are like, that's them, that's the elite.
No.
That might be like level 2 or 3 below them, but that's not them. That's their pawns that they let us see. Even the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, the ones that everyone's like, oh, those are them, and what's his name, Soros. No. They're not. They might be very high, but even they aren't the hidden masters. The hidden masters, you'll never know their name, I don't think, and they could be living very, very humble lives for all we know. But they take their marching orders from something. Anyway, my voice is shot.
To the truth, I gotta end it.
Yeah, up. So. I mean, yeah. So when we all figure this stuff out, we'll probably be dead, and we'll probably be sitting around the Garden of Eden, and we'll probably all sit up and go, "Oh shit, I'm going to take a lot less next time," and
dude, I'll keep saying,
puke.
Man. I said it when I was 15 years old, man. And I was wearing a shirt. Reality is a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Ironically, and I had a really heavy trip. And they're like, what is the most, what after everything, they're like, what is the trippiest experience you ever had? And I looked at them and I said, right here and right now. None of this makes any sense, and you just want to think it makes sense so that you have some kind of control. I'm like,
listen, every dream makes sense when you're having it. When you're having it, every dream makes sense. It's only when you wake up that you go, the fuck? And that means even at night when you're sleeping, when you think about your regular life, it can be like a dream too. So I'm gonna go.
Yeah, man, take it easy.
My body's rebelling. So let's say goodbye to our special guest.
Yeah, been fucking.
And let's close out the show.
To you, dude.
Yeah, man, awesome. Because like I said, I never would have thought that I would find somebody that I actually got it. And then it would happen like this. So I'm going to go because we both do the same thing. So this will never end. Take it easy, man. Brother. It's been great.
Later, dude.
Dude, my voice is getting deeper because I think it's getting so strained that my throat muscle parts are just going.
I feel it too, and I haven't even been talking that much. I've been letting you do all the heavy lifting.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. And I wish I wasn't sick because I could keep going, but otherwise, I'm starting to feel like a soreness in the back of my nostrils.
You might be able to keep going, but I'm kind of sitting here nodding off a little bit. The caffeine is wearing off.
I think I'm going to be officially sick this weekend now, which sucks because I should have made it a short night, but whatever. Doesn't matter. It's all for fun and games, right? So
yeah.
So anyway, guys, just a reminder, you can check out my stuff in the link tree, and also check out the pinned comment in the chat for the Etsy store for Limitless Liberation. Awesome products that she makes. If you don't want to buy something that is in my honor, buy something in her honor, of course. Proceeds go to both of us if it's got my stuff on it. So, of course, if you want to support me, that's an awesome way to do it.
She makes good shit. Flesh Priest approved.
She does. I have quite a few pieces of hers, and she made one of my altar tables. So, you know, really good stuff. You know, but yeah, so check her out. She does custom work too if you contact her. So, in fact, some of the stuff I haven't plugged this thing. Do I have it handy? I think I put it where I can't reach it right now. Oh, damn it. Where did I put?
Oh,
you know
too many swords in the way.
Too many swords. Next week, there's going to be another one out here. Watch it. There's going to have to be. We're doing a Musashi stream.
Rule number 16. You're not listening to rule number 16.
No, I'm not. Fuck that dude. I'm accepting things as they are, Fleshy. I can't change the fact that I have too many weapons. That's rule number 1. All right, so this guy right here, this is something Elena made that I commissioned off of her as a product that I sell. So she's able to make stuff like this. But this is my own design. That's why I'm selling them on my own Etsy. But I don't know. My wife and I took it down for 2 or 3 days because she hasn't been putting new stuff up yet. And we wanted to get some things switched around. So we were doing maintenance on the Etsy store. So I don't know if she put it back up yet or not. But we are planning on having it open probably next week in time for the stream with a bunch of new products on it. So watch that space. If the link just says we're on vacation, just make sure you favorite our store. It's Mind the Shadows on Etsy. Favorite that store because the cool stuff my wife makes, again, my designs, I get to take a little bit of pride in it, but she figured out how to make them gorgeous. She makes these gorgeous triangular mirrors. They sell out within days, if not hours, every time we put like 10 up. They go really fast. They're really cool. So they're worth getting. They're pretty affordable for what they are. And I'll be putting some stuff up there of my own. I also do book signings for that. Like if you want to buy a signed copy of any of my books, you can do that through that. So anyway, guys, that's the cool stuff that makes me happy. And hopefully we'll see you all again next week where we will be talking about the 21 rules of Musashi and trying to put them in some psycho-spiritual understanding.
AKA, at one point, we're all going to have an intervention with DH.
Yeah, probably. Don't you dare. I'll come to your house. No, that'll probably just get you happy.
Oh, yeah, do it. I'll give you a hug.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. With much love and everything else. And I think, is that Sin? Is that, what's his name? The guy from South Africa. We got to get him back on. Oh, my goodness. What's his name? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. I would have been able to answer you any fucking time until you just asked me.
You know, you can tell I'm funky because I can't remember.
The Cult of You.
The Cult of You. Yeah. I don't know if that's him. Maybe not.
I don't remember his name. Unfortunately, I'm shit with him, but yeah.
You know, that's just tell you. I'm like conflating things. It's probably not even him. And he's probably like, thank you for thinking I'm him. That's awesome. No, I'm not. So, all right. That's the worst when you remember somebody wrong. Oh, that's the worst. All right, guys. I will talk to you all next week. And until then, mind all of the shadows because that's probably exactly what you are.
Tell your friends and warn your fucking enemies.
And never take yourself more seriously than your enemies do.